What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Happy 4th of July, gang. If you're out there, not sure if anybody's going to show up this afternoon, might be a lightly attended show. We will see. Holiday in progress. People might have gotten their fix in early with some afternoon baseball going on. Mets and the Yankees duking it out right now, 2-2 in the top of the third. Yanks led off the game with back-to-back home runs. They were just talking about it. Third time this year that the Yankees have led off with back-to-back home runs. Only the 15th time in Yankees history. And then most interestingly, 9 of those 15 times have happened since 2017. And of those 9, Aaron Judge has been the 2-hitter in 7 of them. So Aaron Judge involved in roughly half of the times that the Yankees have led off a game with 2 straight home runs. The other 2 games this year came with a third straight, but this one did not. Anyway, good one going on out in Queens right now. Kenny Woodhouse is here. Good to see you, buddy. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to whoever else shows up, whoever else is out there right now, whoever comes along as we go through and catches up from the beginning or just dives on in with us. Promo's still running. Last day of the promo over at rotoscouts.com. Promo code SARCASTIC with a K in the middle where it doesn't belong. Gets you 50% off of a week or a month. Usual price is already under $1 a day. So we're talking about $3 to get from here to next Friday. Every baseball main slate guaranteed. Try to throw in the early slates. People were asking if I was going to get to today's early slate. Just didn't have the time. I actually was up in plenty of time, knew that it was there, and then just kind of forgot about it as I went about my morning. So apologies for not getting to that one as bonus content today. I'll make it up to you at some point soon, but we try and get to a lot of bonus slates as best we can, but every main slate guaranteed for you. You're going to find a couple value adds through the end of the summer, but we got football coming right around the corner. So a lot going on, a lot coming up, a lot of bang for your buck at Roto Scouts. Give our guys over at acemind.io a little bit of love too. I haven't mentioned them lately. 20% off your first month with promo code RotoScouts, I believe, is still in play. All in caps, by the way. Couple more people trickling in. We can dive on in now. Lone Wolf's here. What's going on, buddy? Good to see everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a good 4th of July out there. Anybody do anything particularly interesting? Any big barbecues, cookouts, anything like that? Going away? I am having a very quiet 4th. Just homebound. I'll be doing baseball coverage over the weekend. Yanks are not far on the road, but they're in Queens, and I'm not buying a ticket from StubHub or whatever and trying to get in over there. So no Yankees game for me this weekend, but I'll be watching on TV. Just kind of hanging out. Fireworks are out over the East River, so you can't even get a good view of them walking up in Jersey City. When they're over the Hudson, there's a great view a couple blocks up. There's just a little park right there, and it just ends, so you have a view going over Hoboken, just of the skyline and everything. Gorgeous little spot. Gets jammed for 4th of July when the fireworks over the Hudson. People will still be out there. You can see them, but it's not as good. Kenny Woodhouse is just house cleaning. Stephen B is here. Good to see you, man. So as we get started, it's an interesting pitching slate. It's a usable pitching slate, kind of in a lot of ways up and down the board, but it's not what I would actually call deep. Because there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of negatives showing. We've got some potentially short outings from some guys. I just don't love it. I love the top. Big fan of Spencer Strider going up against that Orioles team, especially with a little bit of a discount still lingering on FanDuel, which is great. Chris Bumich, not quite performing up to the peak that we saw earlier in the season going up against a really good Diamondbacks team. Tough spot. Reese Olson, first start back, made 3 minor league rehab appearances, got out to 4 and change. Good pitcher, reasonable spot, fairly priced. Third on this weird board. And then we immediately are at Quinn Priester, who has been pretty good over a stretch, going up against the Marlins. Very usable, but we're already hitting some question marks. Erod, short start Verlander in that ballpark in Sacramento. It is not an easy slate today, so it should be a fun one to talk through. Can you just finish vacuuming and shampooing the carpet? Sounds like a blast. Did you leave that because you were going to be free today for the holiday? Was this like your big holiday plan all along? Every 4th of July, you vacuum and shampoo the carpet just once a year kind of a thing? Yeah, John, we've referred to it. kind of obliquely a couple times. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of question marks going on right now about the impact on how winnings are going to be taxed across not only DFS, but obviously sports betting and casinos and gambling of any kind. A couple people have been making interesting comments about DFS might be impacted differently because it's 1099 rather than what is it, W2G. So it's already a different setup. But yeah, I'm no tax expert. I have very strong opinions about the bill in question overall, but we're not going to get into those. So I would say consult your tax expert and most certainly call your congressman. But yeah, not nearly the most objectionable thing in that bill, but obviously problematic for some of us. Ken's off today and needed to be done. Yeah. I hear you, man. My place needs a good scrub down too. Maybe I'll get to that over the weekend. Probably not. Anyway, let's dive into this slate before we get off the rails. So 8-gamer starting up at 7:07 again on DraftKings, and FanDuel going early again. They're starting at 6:40, so just be aware of that. They're catching the Rangers and Padres game. How could you bypass a Rangers-Padres game with Kumar Rocker and Randy Vasquez on the mound? 8.5 run total there. Usable bats, I think, on both sides of that one. Kumar Rocker's broken off a couple decent starts in a row, but kind of against weaker competition than what I think the Padres are going to offer. We'll talk about him on this weird pitching slate. He's going to be in play. Randy Vasquez is usable in spots, but I just kind of prefer that underperforming Rangers lineup. Maybe we just keep on stubbing our toe on that one for a while, but it is a solid Vegas total, at least back it up on both sides, kind of even up game overall, and believable upside for some run scoring. The Angels at the Blue Jays. We're already into crazy territory. Eric Lauer's on the bump for the Blue Jays. The Angels are drawing ludicrous power marks against Eric Lauer. His home run history, he's given up a fair amount of premium contact this year. He's got several bumpy years in years past for allowing home runs. So those hard-hitting right-handed Angels bats are really showing up. They're pulling just a 4.24 implied total. Their projections are a little bit different FanDuel to DK-wise, just given all the home run ups, all the home run specific upside. So they look a little bit better, but they seem like they're very usable and maybe not getting the attention that at least the model thinks they should warrant. They've been good to ride with on DFS days in more spots, I think, when they've looked good than they've underperformed us. So I think I'm going back to the well with some Angels bats. And then the Blue Jays kind of looking the opposite, just given the top-heavy lineup, and they rolled out a lineup with no Vladdy in it today. So we've got a weird 5-run total on kind of a ugly, top-heavy, not so great projected Blue Jays lineup, but I fully believe that they could go out there and put 5-5 plus on Kyle Hendricks. It's just a matter of, are they the stack of the day given the underwhelming nature of that lineup overall, or is it just a day where they win a baseball game, score 5-6 runs, but are just kind of mid for DFS purposes? There are some cheap options in there that have some quality, so we're going to talk about them for sure because it's incredibly gettable against Kyle Hendricks, but it's also maybe not quite where that total would suggest it would be, as it does on a lot of other days as far as finding the offense. Brewers at the Marlins, mentioned Quentin Priester a minute ago. We'll talk about him again, but definitely an interesting spot for him. I picked him up for a 2-start week, or for this specific start, rather. This isn't a 2-start week for him. This is just this one against the Marlins. He's coming off of a great start. I believe it was a career high in strikeouts. Came against the Rockies in a game in Milwaukee last week. Struck out 11 hitters over 7 innings. One hit them. No runs. Obviously, that's the Rockies, but there's a lot of comparison between the Rockies and the Marlins. Marlins are a little bit better. There should be a good start in the, at least, potentially for Quinn Priester here. And then it's Sandy Alcantara on the mound for the Marlins, going up against a capable but not great Milwaukee lineup. Kind of a both-sided situation there. Sandy seemed like he was finding his form over a stretch of 4 starts where he went 6 innings in 3 of them. 5 innings in another one, gave up just 2 runs in that one, gave up just 7 runs overall in that stretch of 4 games, but then got tattooed last time out by Arizona at Arizona out in the desert. 7 earned runs, 10 hits in 6 innings, struck out 4, walked 0, gave up a home run. Not a great start. Against a more gettable Brewers lineup, Sandy on a board like this is going to be in play, but maybe not the top spot of the day. They're coming in with just a 4.21 implied total, just a 3.86 implied on the Marlins side. Tigers going up against Slade Ciccone, who is kind of under the radar, been at least somewhat interesting for some strikeouts. I feel like it's another spot where maybe we're just touching a hot stove again, but we'll at least talk him through because there are strikeouts in that Tigers lineup. There's also a high danger spot for Slade Ciccone, 4.23 implied total on the Tigers side. And then the Guardians coming in at 3.86 implied against Reese Olson, who is coming back. I've got him for 5 innings. It's his first start in the show since May 17th. He was hurt, and then he made 3 minor league rehab starts, got out to 4 innings, struck out 5 in his most recent outing, faced 17 hitters, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, gave up a home run, but pitched fairly well in the rehab stint. I would expect 5, but I'm not sure if we get a 6th. So I question what the actual utility on Reese Olson looks like. And you can also get just some shaky starts, finding his form coming back. Charlie Morton, another pitcher, veteran guy who's been up and down throughout the season. Last time out, 3 earned runs over 5, struck out just 3, walked 2. That was against Texas. Start before that, faced the Rays, went 6, 1 earned run on 6 hits, but struck out 7, walked 0. That was coming off a 10 strikeout game. Went 5 against the Angels, 5 hits, no runs, 10 strikeouts, and a walk. Charlie can give you very good games still. Those Braves do have some strikeouts. They've been underwhelming all season, but they do have a 4.88 implied total because the opposite side of the coin with Charlie is that he gets absolutely brutalized. I tend to lean Braves bats in that equation, but on a slate like this, Charlie's definitely in play. And then my favorite pitcher of the day, the top projected pitcher of the day, Spencer Strider, coming in, facing an Orioles lineup. The last 3, he's been good, but given up a couple of runs. But he's gotten more stretched out. He went 6 in 3 straight, then went 5, gave up 3 earned, struck out 8, but walked 4 against the Mets. That was a shakier start if you were playing him for DFS. And then last time he faced the Phillies, mixed bag of a start. He struck out 4, walked 3, 2 earned runs on 5 hits, but went 7, faced 28 hitters. So there's a lot of good in there in those recent starts, despite the fact that maybe after the 13 strikeout start that he put up against the Rockies in mid-June, he just hit the stretch of 2 games against the Mets and a game against the Phillies. Now he gets this Orioles lineup that, even padding it with lefties, there are so many strikeouts available. Everybody in this lineup strikes out in the 20s. So should be a good opportunity for Spencer Strider. 3.71 implied total on the Orioles side. He has been giving up a little bit of premium contact. The stuff hasn't been quite as sharp. There's nits you can pick if you want to, but don't really need to. Course Field game between the White Sox and the Rockies. This is just a weird one in the model. Doesn't really know where to go with it. Those run totals are difficult with the White Sox. Even with the boost from the run total, they only project out so well. The Rockies look a little bit better given some of their power upside overall. They're facing Adrian Hauser. The White Sox come in facing Antonio Sensatella. I do have the White Sox ranked slightly ahead of the Rockies. Both of them, they're in like the 5 to 7 territory as far as rankings go. Not ranking out as a typical road team would at Coors Field, despite, again, a fairly high total. To me, that just means we're looking at like a 5-6 run game most of the time, as bad as those White Sox are, even with as bad as Antonio Sensatella can be. Lance McCullers went 3 1/3 in his return to action on the 28th. He missed about 2 weeks in there, 17 days, went down on the 10th after giving up 4 earned runs. Hit the IL for a minute, but back. I just question whether we get more than 5 out of McCullers here. He also happened to give up 8 earned runs on 7 hits in that 3 1/3. That was against the Cubs. Struck out just 1, walked 4, allowed 3 home runs. Kind of problematic. Had been pitching fairly well in some spots prior to that in a short season so far. Just 8 starts so far, just kind of working his way back from extended absences. I don't think there's any reason to go there against the Dodgers. They're pulling a 5.45 implied total. It wouldn't shock me, though, if he limited them for the 5 innings that he's in the game somewhat. And then on the other side of that one, I think we've got another 5-inning starter. It's Ben Kasparius making a full start here. His last 3 performances were all in bulk relief, 4 innings, 5 innings, 3 2/3. Again, gives me at least faith that we're getting 5. I don't think we get a 6th. He's been pitching in a hybrid role, primarily in bulk relief, though. He's very, very good. It's good for strikeouts. He has hit a little bit of a slide here in his last few appearances, though. 6 earned runs over those 4 innings in his last appearance. 8 hits allowed. Struck out 4 and walked 1. That was on the 28th against the Royals. So he's had a couple bumps in the road along the way, but overall, very, very talented kid. I just don't know how much we need him for just 5 innings against an Astros team that's low strikeout in general, has a 4.16 implied total. KC against the Diamondbacks, 8.5 runs on the board there, mid-4s implied totals on both sides of that one. A couple of capable lefties. Chris Bubic against Erod. Chris Bubic has been by far the better of the two this season, but either of those guys is capable of breaking off a good start, and they've been in similar form lately. Erod's been performing well. Bubic has slid a little bit from his early season spike in output. Rounding things off in that minor league ballpark in Sacramento that everybody is ranting and raving about as far as having to pitch there. And I'm talking mostly about Luis Severino. Somebody on the Yankees just hit a home run. Belly. Cody Bellinger home run. Beautiful. Justin Verlander on the bump for the Giants. Pushing a 5.04 implied total in the direction of that hard-hitting Athletics team. And JP Sears going for the Athletics against the Giants, who are pulling a 5.07 implied total. Both sides of that one look pretty good for bats. I wouldn't call you crazy if you had a couple shares of Verlander, though. He went 6 in his last one, 5 in the start before that. He's gone 6 in a few spots so far this season. He's been mostly competent. No real bad start. He had a 5-run game in his third outing of the year back on April 9th. Other than that, 4 runs or fewer, and since April 15th, he hasn't given up 4 runs in a game. 3 runs or fewer in every game all along the way. No reason to believe that he couldn't succeed against this Athletics team for a few minutes. And then Sears, every now and then, can find a decent start. It's just this ballpark is going to work so negatively against these pitchers that I don't know how much you want to tangle it. This game is almost more Coors-y than that game is, just given the downside of talent that we have in the lineups there. Something to think about as you build lineups tonight. I got like an itch at the end of my nose. It's just like right there. It's annoying. Strider at 95, 10,000 on DraftKings. Absolutely, with a bullet. Against righties this year, the only hitters on this team, do with the active roster. The only hitters on this team with better than a 22% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching this year are Ramon Urias at 19% and an always low strikeout Ryan O'Hearn at 14.9. Everybody else is 22% or higher. 22% is Jackson Holiday. Gunner's at 23, and then it goes up from there into 25% and beyond. There are plenty of strikeouts on deck for Spencer Strider. Chris Bubic, again, it's a high danger spot against Arizona. His performances come down, but given that he's one of the better starters on the slate, it's just a question of a couple runs bends his performance at those prices, given where everybody else is priced and given the visible upside of some of the other starters. So a little bit challenged, but easy to play. Reese Olson, again, we're looking at probably 5 innings. There are some Ks in that Guardians lineup, but it's probably a day where we max out around here. This is a median and a ceiling kind of. Priester against Miami probably has the ability to put a little bit more on top of this score than a Reese Olson in a short start. So again, something to consider as we build lineups. They look a little bit different when you look at the ceiling versus what the projected performance looks like. Erod challenged against KC. They're low strikeout. He can be good. A lot more interested at 7,800 as an SP2, I think, than at 96 on FanDuel. But I would suspect you're going to get him at fairly low ownership at that FanDuel price. There are a few offset prices like that, like Adrian Hauser, all the way down here at in that Coors Field game. He's been pitching overall pretty well. That Colorado lineup is bad and has been targetable in Coors Field. I'm not going out of my way to take Adrian Hauser shares, and on FanDuel, I don't think you need to really think about it all that much. It's 9,400. It's not like he's cheap. 7,000 on DraftKings is a completely different story. That's an appealing, interesting SP2. We'll talk about it when we get there. In between, Verlander, again, really challenged by that ballpark and the home run power that comes with facing Oakland, or the Athletics, rather, in that ballpark. He's very affordable, though. He has been pretty good, so we're going to at least talk about him. Eric Lauer, I'm really leaning Angels bats. He just kind of lands in the middle of the board there. You can find some strikeouts. There are some strikeouts in the opposing lineup, but I tend to lean there toward their power and some of those big right-handed bats. I also just like the way that team stacks. You can just fill an outfield with that team and then take a full infield if you've got other teams with good corner infielders, which we've got on this slate with an appealing shortstop. So it works out really well to stack those Angels. Rocker, I just don't have full faith in at 8,200 on that FanDuel slate as far as just the matchup against the Padres, even though he's been in a stretch of a couple good starts. Ciccone, again, we're going to at least talk through because there are some strikeouts in his game going up against a heavy strikeout Detroit team that could probably go out there and also tattoo him. 9,100 versus 8,200, another guy differently priced across sites. So is Sandy, 83 versus 71. On that smaller DraftKings slate, they did a lot of favors as far as some of these prices go. You can probably go double barrel cheap with guys like, you could go Erod Verlander, you could go Verlander Sandy. I don't think is crazy. Ciccone and any one of those guys. Hauser at 7,000 and Verlander, Hauser, and Sandy is not completely nuts. There are definitely ways to go down there. You're throwing darts at all of it, but it's that kind of slate. Outside of Strider, there's nobody that I would tell you is kind of looking, and I'm not even saying Strider's locked in, but looking like a locked in spot. You don't really have that to work with today. Sears is really dicey, but very, very cheap, capable of giving you a decent game. McCullers is just going to depend on the depth of start. Again, it wouldn't shock me if he had a decent day against the Dodgers, but there's really no need to tangle with it when he checks in at kind of the same price as all those effective in okay or better spots anyway. Spots above him. Kasperi is just a short start, but a lot of upside at 65, at 72. I don't think you get him on FanDuel even at 65 just because of the lack of the quality start. In all probability, he's going 5 and no more. At 72 on DraftKings with his strikeout upside, maybe in the mix. Hendo is pretty rough. Morton is playable, but also very difficult to nail down as far as what it's going to look like when his median's down toward the bottom of the board at a similar price toward guys who are up near the top of the board. There's not a ton of daylight between 10.5 and 13 DraftKings points, though. So bear that in mind. Again, there's not really much difference between this point on the board and that point on the board. Vasquez in that same boat, playable, but not really appealing at 73. And then Senzatella is probably the only guy I wouldn't really consider playing on either slate. Even at 5 on DraftKings, I just don't think you're getting enough, even against that ugly White Sox lineup. Beautiful. Took long enough that both of these came in. As we get started, hit the like and subscribe button, whoever's out there. I'll pull the chat back up in a moment. Appreciate all the likes, everybody who subscribes to the YouTube channel. And we have that one. Subscribe over at the website as well. Follow the @rotoscouts Twitter handle. Rotoscouts.com is the website. You can see still scrolling across the bottom of your screen down there. Promo code SARCASTIC with a K in the middle instead of a C. Gets you 50% off of a week or a month through the end of today. That promo will go away next week, so take advantage now. $3 and change gets you from today to next Friday for every baseball main slate. Rangers and the Padres, both these teams only this game only on FanDuel. Both these teams coming in with mid-4 totals. John Hansa saying Strider likely to be 60% owned in single entry. Would not surprise me at all, John. my 40 and over softball team is a little bit better than the Rockies, says John. Yeah. Not shocking. Not shocking. Christopher, happy 4th to you too, buddy. Larry C's here. Larry's working today. Got 5 calls from clients today. Sounds like a busy day. Maybe, hopefully they were at least very productive, very lucrative calls, right? A 5 call a day, as long as it's paying big bills, could be worth going in for. So the Rangers check in at 439, the Pods 420. We got Kumar Rocker coming in with a decent enough projection. And it's only a 5 and change. It's not like the model's getting carried away, giving him a ton of innings or anything here. As mentioned, last time out, 6 innings, 2 earned runs, 4 hits, 6 strikeouts and a walk, home run allowed. That was against Seattle. Pretty decent start. 5 1/3 against Pittsburgh. Struck out 4, walked 3, 2 earned runs on 5 hits. Pretty good start. 5 innings against the White Sox, 4 hitter, no runs, 6 strikeouts and a walk. Pretty good start. Prior to that, he'd kind of been giving up a lot of runs in basically every spot. So is this a just immediate corner turn where he found something and now he's this guy and he's going to just be reliably good going forward? I don't really think so. He's just happened to give up only a couple of runs in each of those games, higher xFIP in each of those games than his ERA. So runs definitely are available here for the Padres. It wouldn't shock me, though, if he did have a competent start. Maybe you're looking at a 3-4 run day, kind of like what that implied total suggests, and not that much more from the Pods. But they're appreciably low strikeout enough. You know, this average is out at a 22% because you're still pushed up by 19 plate appearances with a 47.4 down the bottom with Trenton Brooks. And obviously you've got that big Martin Maldonado at 36.6. Everybody up here, that averages to a 16.3. So that's the more realistic number that we're working with here with Kumar Rocker. So there aren't a ton of strikeouts available. He's checking in at a 20.4. Not bad. 20.4 against 6.6% walks. Very appealing 11.2% swinging strike rate. The kid is a high-end pitching prospect, or a now developing young pitcher, I guess. 6.13 ERA, though. You can see the visible downside from some of those early performances, but a 3.76 xFIP under the covers. So he was seeing more bad luck, poorer results than what he was pitching. He has given up a bunch of premium contact in here, but he's kept it to a respectable launch angle. So the home run output being at 2.76%, despite all that contact, not totally shocking. And we should probably see some of this contact normalize and come down. But I don't know that it's a spot where we need to get aggressive about it. He's 82 against this Padres team. Doesn't really feel like a go-to spot on FanDuel. A couple shares across 150 just to have to diversify a little bit. I'm sure he's going to be fairly low owned on this slate. I think he's fine, but it's not a priority to get those shares. On the other side, Randy Vasquez, 13% strikeouts, 10.7% walks, a 3.84 ERA, finding decent results, but no real justification for it. A 7% swinging strike rate, 23.7% CSW, 5.70 xFIP underneath the surface. Don't go by the back of the baseball card numbers. Go by how he's actually pitching. 11% barrels allowed, sub 40% hard hits, 88.9 miles an hour of exit velo. Fine. Maybe he's a realistically sub 4% home run pitcher. But on this kind of average trajectory with all those barrels available, when he makes mistakes, they're going to travel more frequently than they have. You've got power in this opposing Rangers lineup. I just don't see a real reason to go to Randy Vasquez on FanDuel. Last time out, 4 1/3. The start before that, he went 7, gave up 2 earned on a home run and 5 hits, 2 strikeouts, 2 walks. He just doesn't have the strikeout appeal, and he's finished the 6th, that time for a quality start? Quality start back on May 26th, over 6 1/3. And then a pair of quality starts on the 9th and the 3rd of May. Other than that, every other start has been short of the mark and fairly significantly. Most of those, he hasn't even finished the 5th. So you really don't get a ton of depth out of him either. Really not that worthwhile on FanDuel. On the Rangers side, I don't know how much that leads me to just rush to getting to Rangers. It's a respectable enough total. If you're getting the xFIP version of Randy Vasquez, the guy that he actually is, if they're capitalizing on how he actually pitches, then we could have a decent day that might be a little bit off the radar because it's only on the FanDuel slate. People will be talking about it less. Top of the lineup, multi-position, 2,900, Josh Smith. 7 home runs, 8 steals, still getting on at a 353 clip overall, creating runs at a decent 118 WRC+. The numbers are going to continue to cool in terms of the average on base, but he's always been a capable enough guy. It's a good spot in their lineup, hitting ahead of Corey Seager with an 11-11 in the home run model, if you like that sort of thing. 11 home runs on the season. If you need the third 11 on your roulette wheel there, come on, guys, got to hit a home run today. 200 ISO, a 411 xWOBA underneath, 123 WRC+, making ludicrous contact. Not seeing the results over here that he should be seeing for this kind of contact. The strikeout rate is slightly higher, but negligibly so. The walks are also higher and kind of more interestingly so. So a lot going on with Corey Seager. He's only 3,300 at shortstop today. I like that option on FanDuel. Marcus Semien in the 3 spot at 3,100, 9 home runs, 7 steals. The season is normalized. I mean, we're up to a 316 on base now. There was a while that was below 300. We're well above the Mendoza line at 238 now. It doesn't look good, but with the 125 ISO, with the overall lack of not even being in double-digit home runs yet, but a 337 xWOBA, reasonable contact that is very similar to his past couple seasons, and honestly higher in both categories than last year. Strikeouts are up a little bit from 14.6 the last 2 seasons exactly in a row, which is crazy, but they're only at 18.4, so that's not unmanageable. It's well better than the average. 10.42% walks to go with that. So all of a sudden, there are kind of things to like about Marcus Semien. He's at least worth playing at 31. The fact that there's only $200 of separation between him and Corey Seager is a little bit silly. Seager's just dramatically underpriced. Adolis Garcia at 29, at least playable. He's got 10 home runs on the year, just a 161 ISO, continuing to underperform this kind of premium contact, which he did all through last season. He underperformed basically the same premium contact. It's just continuing a bad year last year over another 300 and change plate appearances, but there's enough to justify belief in the turn at some point. You just got to kind of hope that we land on it. Evan Carter, reasonable season so far, 283, 372, 444, 4 home runs, 8 steals. More of a line drive type hitter, but capable of making solid contact, low strikeout, medium walk rate, high walk rate actually so far this year. Very playable piece, 133 WRC plus, one of the few guys in this lineup creating runs in a positive sense. Jonah Heim, at worst, a mix and match quality player, but you don't really need to go to him on FanDuel. He's very, very cheap. He can slot in as an alternate to Jake Berger at first base without much problem. You've got dual catchers in this lineup where you don't need the position. So you're working with catcher, first base, util, probably mostly just that first base spot. I prefer Jake Berger between the 3. He's the more interesting bat. 10 home runs on the season, a 179 ISO compared to the 138, the 0.74, the 1 home run, the 8 home runs. He's made much better contact. He's the better overall hitter despite the lower lineup spot than Jonah Heim. Heim's a mixer, but he's more interesting when we're on DraftKings and we can get a cheap catcher into the mix. Same thing with Higgy. Higgy's not giving us the barrels that we've seen in the past few seasons. So until he starts doing that again, not really all that interesting. Berger's the play from down there. 2,600 at first base. That's kind of interesting. A lot of power. Fernando Tatis is a superstar. If you're just going to the Padres against Kumar Rocker, you probably get them a little bit lower owned, I would think, than they ought to be as well. And you're dealing with Tatis, Jackson Merrill, Manny Machado, 3 stars up at the top of the lineup. Merrill with 5 home runs and a stolen base in his 230 chances, a 373 xWOBA under the covers, a 124 WRC plus, was making very good contact over his 230 plate appearances. All 3 guys in the 11 to 12% range as far as premium contact goes. Low strikeout, high to medium walk rates, tons of appeal up there. And that's a 3-man that 2 of them are expensive, but one of them's too cheap for his talents. It averages to 35, which is entirely reasonable for all 3 of those players. So I have no issues with that as a 3-man. If you work in Luis Ariz in the cleanup spot, which is still weird to me, goes down to 32.75 and so on. So a lot of playability in the Padres. Machado coming in with 13 home runs. He's at 289, 351, 471. He was over 300 for a while there, maybe cooling off a little bit as far as the average goes, but still having a tremendous season as far as power output, as far as just driving the ball. Could find some more success for extra base hits. Just a 182 ISO despite how he's driving the ball. So we'll see where that goes, but a 378 xWOBA, 132 WRC plus on the year. Luis Ariz was a tremendous hit tool most of the time, but this year we're at just 279, 312, 393. Hasn't really come through much. He's never going to be a power bat. He's incredibly low strikeout, low walk, 2% strikeouts, 4.6% walk. So everything's in play, which is kind of what puts him in that cleanup role. If you're just thinking in terms of guys being on base and all 3 of the guys immediately in front of him are getting on base at a 350 clip, then a single, if all 3 of those guys are on, a single can score you a run. So I get why they're doing it, because just put the ball in play once guys are on base ahead of you from that spot, rather than the traditional think about a cleanup hitter needing to be a big thumper. But it also would make a hell of a lot of sense to just have Gavin Sheets in that spot and not sweat it that much. Use that eyes in the 5 spot as a table reset, or even move Xander Bogaerts up into the 5 and let Luis Ariz just hit down toward the bottom if you're going to use him this way. Regardless, he's playable in a mix and match role. You want him at second, not at first most of the time. Gavin Sheets is having a decent season. 13 home runs, 261, 319, 454. A 194 ISO is one of the better marks on this team. A 117 WRC plus, same deal. Xander Bogaerts, the production comes and goes. 258, 333, 369. We're back to a pretty good on-base percentage. 13 steals, 5 homers. It's starting to look like a decent slash line outside of the weak slug, the 111 ISO. Right at league average for run creation, a slightly above average xWOBA, but that doesn't really tell us much about which direction we're going to go here. Bogey's just kind of stable right now. You don't want to poke it too much and knock the vase off the shaky pedestal. But 2,900 shortstop, second base, very playable. Jake Cronenworth, Trenton Brooks, Martin Maldonado. Cronenworth's the most playable piece down there, but even he's not all that appealing, and I'd rather have some of the other options at those positions. He's there if you're building a lot of Padres stacks. Maldonado, just kind of a mix-in catcher where you don't need the position. You're just hunting for those oddball home runs he hits. Oh, and that goes Rangers bats, Padres bats, Kumar Rocker if you need it, and probably no Randy Vasquez. Hendo, since the 9 strikeout gem against the Yankees, where he went 6 innings, faced 23 Yankees, struck out 9 of them, allowed 4 hits, walked 1, and gave up no earned runs. Came out the next start, 5 innings of 8 hit ball against Houston, struck out 2, walked 1, gave up 2 home runs, allowed 3 earned runs, 5 runs total on the 8 hits. Start after that, 5 innings against the Nats. Just 1 earned run on 5 hits, struck out 5. This was an okay outing. The 1 run came on a solo homer, but not a good start. Prior to the Yankees game, he was getting several runs in each game, low strikeout totals in each game. Kyle Hendricks is what he is. He has been for quite a while. 4.66 ERA, a 4.76 xFIP, 16.2%, strikeout 6.2%, walks. Yeah, the walk rate is good. That's about it. You can get hits against him. You can stack up runners, and you can drive the ball against him, hit home runs, cash those tickets. Like the upside for the Blue Jays, but it's mostly about the common options from the top of the lineup. Like George Springer, Bo Bichette are going to be obvious. So is Addison Barger to everybody who goes to this team. Leo Jimenez in the leadoff role is cheap, so he'll probably get popular just being the dead min price. Slot him in at second base. It works. Leo was here for a minute last season. In 210 plate appearances, he slashed 229, 329, 358. Did come away with a 102 WRC plus, hit 4 home runs, supposed to have a little bit of a hit tool, but didn't exactly show us a ton. He's just really, really cheap up there ahead of the bats that you want. But this lineup's really diminished with no Vladdy. I would expect that total probably came down. Maybe they're down toward 5-1 or something like that now. I haven't updated the total since the start of the show, obviously. But you get 3 quality bats there. Then you get Davis Schneider, Nathan Lukes, down here, Will Wagner, Tyler Heineman. I know they're in first place technically, but this is not a first place lineup. Come on, let's be honest. Ernie Clement, if you're dropping down the lineup, has been really interesting over the last month or so. Just a lot of hit tool there. He's managed ways to scratch out runs, gets on base a lot at a 342 clip, and you could say that about some of these guys in smaller samples. Lukes and Davis Schneider are both definitely getting on base. They each have a couple home runs in their pocket. Lukes has had a decent year, over 184 plate appearances. There's playability through these guys, but there's not a ton of appeal there. Clement is the guy who I think is a little bit more interesting. 109 WRC plus. These guys, again, smaller samples, 134 and a 114 WRC plus. So they are on the board, and they're cheap. But it's an underwhelming lineup. They are a value stack. Nobody in the lineup on DK above 4,800, which is the price for George Springer. Same deal on FanDuel. He's 34. Nobody else in the lineup is above 29. So they're easy to reach. Solid secondary stack, solid 3-man. I just don't know how far north of 5 runs we're going. We're probably getting 5. But are we getting 8, 10, several home runs? Or is it 5 runs on 1 home run and a couple of base hits? Kyle Hendricksy kind of a day. I tend to lean toward the latter, especially with this version of the lineup. Bo has 11 home runs, decent slash line, a 105 WRC plus. Barger's up to 11 home runs, monster 249 ISO. crushing everything he sees, 12.7% barrels, 53.5% hard hits. At 4,200 with third base and outfield on DraftKings, 2,900 third base outfield on FanDuel, Addison Barger is easily the most interesting hitter in this lineup today. Springer's got 15 homers, 10 steals, having a very good bounce back season, 232 ISO, 149 WRC plus. If we're just looking like 5-man average price, you can get it really low with these guys. Even if we go, like you could go even cheaper and get David Schneider, but let's go to the guy I would actually want there. So I'm going second, outfield, shortstop, Barger in the outfield, and then Ernie at third base. And I'm at 37.80 to target Kyle Hendricks. So 3,800 a man for the 5-man is obviously, cheaper per person than just using those 3. Stretches you out a little bit. The cheapest way to do it, you get like right in there. And that's 36.80, only slightly cheaper. You could obviously go like this if you wanted to wrap Will Wagner around for reasons. Brings it down to 35.60. Not all that much savings. It's an interesting spot. It's not a spot that I would get crazy excited about. But with the Blue Jays and the Cardinals this season, every time they've looked like that, they've kind of gone off a little bit. I don't know what that noise was. Something just fell down out in the hallway. On the Angels side, the stretch of power is scaring me. It's going up against Eric Lauer, who this year is giving up just a 6.7% barrel, but it comes on a 19.8 degree average launch angle overall. This is in 45 innings and 6 starts so far. 44.2% hard hits, 90.8 miles an hour of exit velo. So both of those are over our threshold on an extreme fly ball trajectory. 3.31% home runs, I'll buy because he's missed some barrels along the way, but overall that's going up because that's just the nature of those kind of numbers. It's been higher in the past too. This is obviously a very small sample, but a similarly sized sample. 9 starts, 46 and 2/3, 7.58% home runs. Obviously that's extreme. In a more fair sample, 29 starts, 158 and 2/3, 4.08% home runs. Did have a decent strikeout rate that year. Pitched to a 3.69 ERA, a 4.08 xFIP. Wasn't bad, but did give up a lot of premium contact, a lot of fly balls, and a lot of home runs. So that's having a big impact here with some of these monster power bats that the Angels throw at you. Look at all these extreme barrel rates. It's not even double digits. We're talking about mid double digits on all these guys. That's an average barrel rate for those 5 hitters of 14.6%. with an average hard hit rate of 49.5%. That's say what you want about the Angels, but that is a major stretch of power. 13 home runs on the board for Neto, 14 steals, a 120 WRC plus. Leads into Shanuel, who hit his 8th home run of the year, I believe, last night, if I'm not mistaken. I know he put up a decent score anyway. Maybe it was off doubles. He's only 3,700, 3,100, more expensive on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but still at a reasonable price. His job is to set the table for Trout, Ward, Adele, and so on. He's tremendous at that job, 366 on base, giving you a 120 WRC plus, and capable of giving you a little bit more as far as just bat on ball. 12.2% strikeouts and 11.3% walks this year. So a lot of frequent contact, a lot of on-base skills. Shanuel's interesting when you go to the Angels just as a way to cheapen things up a little bit on DK. Mike Trout is way too cheap. For facing Eric Lauer, Mike Trout should not be at 4,700. He should also probably not be at 33 on FanDuel. That just feels a little bit less offensive for some reason. It's just too cheap. It's Mike Trout. 16.1% barrels, 53.1% hard hits. I know he's not having maybe the best season, but he's been in and out of the lineup. It's 253 plate appearances. He still has 13 home runs, a 209 ISO, putting major bat on ball, a 397 xWOB under the covers. This is still Mike Trout in basically peak form. It's just a couple results here and there that haven't fallen in for him, but major opportunity for Trout shares. He's going to be popular, I think, at least in Angel stacks. He'll be popular, probably their most individually popular hitter, but really interesting today. Taylor Ward at 45.32 has 20 home runs, 262 ISO, monster power bat from the right side. Joe Adele, we've been talking about all season long, 18 homers, 246 ISO, major source of premium contact. He's only 4,000 on DraftKings. He's up to 33 on FanDuel. He's the same price as Mike Trout, which is crazy in and of itself. Jason Dominguez hit another one. 5-3 Yanks. Nice. Wow. And the Cubs hit their 8th home run of the day. Michael Busch hit his 3rd home run of the day for the Cubbies today. Who were they facing? Jesus. I didn't look at that early slate all that much. Started against Miles Michaelis. I'm not sure who's been in there recently, but 8 home runs for the Cubs. Damn. That team is a beast. So love Joe Adell. This price is very low. That price is very fair given the upside at 33. There's nothing wrong with any of those prices. That stretch of hitters, there's not really, I mean, everybody's at a slight discount for what their quality and what their upside could be. So it's perfectly fine to combine any 4 of those guys. You just don't have one guy that's uniquely cheap and offsetting to help with the price. But a $3,300 average for those bats against this pitcher is fine. $2,900 for Logan O'Hoppe. He's entirely playable on the FanDuel slate. You can play him instead of Shanu. You can play him alongside each other. Luis, and he's obviously in play at $3,500 as a catcher on the DraftKings slate. He's at 17 home runs, another major source of right-handed power. Luis Renifo hasn't been as good as he was last year. 63 WRC plus over 294 plate appearances kind of speaks for itself. He's low strikeout, low walk, so he's going to put bat on ball. At 29-25, he's mostly interesting as a second baseman on FanDuel for 25. He's nothing more than a mixer. Gustavo Campero hasn't done anything in his 23 plate appearances so far this year. 6.3% barrels is at least moderately appealing. In 48 chances last year, he hit 1 home run, had a 73 WRC plus. Mix and match piece for the dead man for 2,100. And then Chad Stevens not available still on either slate unless he got added. You do have a projection for him. He projects out pretty low, and with a pretty low mark in the home run model, went 0 for 4 in his debut. We talked Blue Jays pretty much up and down. This goes, I'm going to fly in the face of the Vegas numbers here a little bit and say for DFS, give me some Angels bats. Angels stack over the Blue Jays stack. And then I don't really want either of these pitchers, but if you're going to do it, it's Eric Lauer over Kyle Hendricks. The appeal with Lauer would be that he does have a 24.9% strikeout rate this year. He's pitched to a 2.60 ERA, despite that 4+ xFIP underneath. Hasn't been murdered by the premium contact that he's allowed, just a 107 whip. There are things to at least, grasp at the straws. There are straws to grasp at here at 7,600 on DK. You really don't want him, I don't think, but there are strikeouts available in this lineup. He does strike hitters out. So that would be the appeal. Kyle Hendricks, really unappealing. Low strikeout Blue Jays lineup. There's not really much path to success outside of a day if you consider 5-6 innings of 3-4 run ball from Kyle Hendricks with very few strikeouts. A successful day for 65, then maybe. Collins swapped off the Cubbies. Oh. Number 34 for Cal Raleigh. Goddamn. John called that one out a few minutes ago. Monster year from Raleigh. Whew. It's always been a good power bat, but damn, who saw this coming? Knock on wood, healthy second half. I want to see where he goes. Brewers, Marlins. Let's see if we got that Brewers lineup. We probably do. No, we don't actually. Nope, not in yet. This one has that weird flag on labs for weather. There are no weather spots today. Nothing to worry about weather-wise. Terry's boy just signed with Texas. Rowdy Tellis. I don't know if I would call him my boy. That's funny. How would he line up today? Can I can't. That's right. I can't get him to project unless he's in the salary file. Never mind. I just wanted to see how he would look in that lineup against Randy Vasquez today, but don't have time to make it pop. All right, so no Brewers lineup is in. They're facing Sandy Alcantara. Sandy comes in at 7,100, 8,300. Pretty reasonable price for what he once was. He's pitched to a 6.98 ERA, but a much lower 4.53 xFIP. Still an ugly overall mark, but notably lower. That said, just 17.5% strikeouts, a 9.4% walk, just 8.9% swinging, 24.9% CSW. As we've gone over in the past, Sandy was very, very good. But a lot of his strikeout success came by compiling strikeouts in deep starts. He was never a blow him away strikeout pitcher as an ace. He was an ace, but 19.8% strikeouts over 184 in 28 starts in that year. And then in the ridiculous season, 23.4% strikeouts, not a killer number, only a few points above league average. But that came over 228 and 2/3 innings. So most of those were very, very good DFS days because you were getting big strikeout totals across all those innings. 2.28 ERA, 3.29 xFIP that year, a 5.6% walk. He was tremendous. You can see more swinging strikes, not enough CSW overall. That was similar this year, but the strikeout rate dropped. The walks increased slightly. Missed all of last season and has been decidedly mediocre so far this year. As I mentioned at the top of the show, ran into a brick wall in Arizona the last time out. 7 earned runs over 6 innings, 10 hits allowed, 4 strikeouts, no walks, a home run allowed, but 7 earned on 10 hits. Just a disaster of a start. Prior to that one, he had 4 decent starts in a row. 3 earned runs, 2 earned runs, none. A shutout over 6 innings. That was against the Pirates, though. And then a game against Colorado. So maybe we're only counting the game against the Braves and one against the Phillies. But he was decent against those 2 teams. 4 strikeouts, 2 walks against the Braves, 3 earned runs in 6 innings. 5 strikeouts and a walk, but allowed 2 solo home runs to the Phils. 5 hits over 5 innings. Again, it's another spot. You're kind of grasping at straws. You're kind of trying to remember and see the guy that he once was, find the depth of start that we need. And we have gotten 6 in 4 of his last 5 starts. I don't know that we get 7, even if things are going well, but 6, a handful of strikeouts, maybe in play at 7,100. He's very, very cheap at 71. 83 on FanDuel, where even the 6s in question is a little bit more dicey, especially with such a low strikeout pitcher. And especially when he's, the walks are biting him a little bit. He's allowing a lot of premium contact and medium home run rate so far. He's keeping the ball down effectively. Below a 10% degree average launch angle is helping him. But there's a lot of premium contact there if the Brewers are getting anybody on base. 4.22 implied total kind of helps with maybe swerving around some Sandy shares. A few here and there on FanDuel. More shares on DraftKings for sure at 71. That's worth playing with. On the other side, Priester, 85, 87, in the mix on both sides. He comes in with a 3.35 ERA, a higher but still respectable 3.80 xFIP. Sub 20% strikeouts against 8.6% walks is not ideal. He is inducing a 10.2% swinging strike rate, though. He's been very, very good at keeping the ball in the yard, keeping the ball on the ground, 95th percentile ground ball rate. 2.47% home runs so far, entirely believable mark. Has improved in most of his recent starts as the season's gone on. He hit a low point on May 2nd, give up 7 runs to the Cubbies. Since then, he hasn't given up more than 3 earned runs in a start. He's given up 3 twice. He gave up 2 earned runs once in that stretch, and every other outing has been 1 earned run or fewer. Fewer has only happened once. That was his most recent start. Every other start was 1, but still, very good stretch. The strikeouts leave something to be desired. He had a monster performance in his most recent game. 11 strikeouts, but it was against the Rockies in Milwaukee. 1 hit, no runs, 2 walks against the 11 strikeouts. Prior to that, in that good stretch, he had 2 7 strikeout games, but everything else is 4 or fewer. So I wouldn't come in with a huge expectation of strikeouts. This Miami lineup has a few spots for Ks, but they've also got a few guys in here who are sub 20%, and believably so. There are a few guys that could get to Quinn Priester here. There's a few guys who could put decent barrel and hard hit on the ball. Agustin Ramirez, Kyle Stowers, Jesus Sanchez are the guys I'm thinking of there. Not a one of those guys is overly good. Not a one of those guys is overly threatening. But those are the three upside bats in this lineup. And then you get a low strikeout guy like Xavier Edwards who can put bat on ball, find some success, get on base, and kind of bend Quinn Priester's day at what probably is going to be pretty high ownership at both those, at the price on both sites. So just DFS wise, game theory wise, there is a little bit of downside to Priester while he's in a very good spot. And I actually like the pitcher. Again, I have him starting this game in the Dynasty League today. I just expect he's going to be really highly owned. It wouldn't be the craziest idea in the world to have some, but undercut the field. And even on top of that, maybe even sprinkle in some Marlon Stacks as a contrarian option. Because again, fairly low strikeout overall, outside of the outlier performance. The one thing that would be shaky there would be the home run upside. Wow. All right. Scratch that. Play as much Quinn Priester as you want. Low mid single digits. There's no reason to talk about trying to scrape your way below the field. Per these ownership projections, FanDuel wise, and we'll look at DraftKings. Spencer Strider's in like nearly half of all lineups, and everybody else is below 10%. So outside of Strider, do whatever you want. No reason to talk game theory as far as ownership goes on FanDuel anymore. That's just silly. By the way, with that, I would still take a gigantic chunk of Strider. He's 50+% on DraftKings, which makes all the sense in the world. Wow. Are people sleeping on Quinn Priester? Are other sites not talking about Quinn Priester today? He has no note on RG, so maybe not. Interesting. I'm intrigued. Considering that he's significantly lower owned than I expected, I'm now more excited about this Quinn Priester spot at these prices. I think it's pretty good. He's not cheap, but he's not expensive. It is the Marlins, 387 implied total. And again, we have a healthy respect for Jesus Sanchez and how well he hits the ball. These two hitters are kind of coming into their own. There's nobody else in this lineup that we're really worried about. Interesting spot now. Brewers bats at 4.22 implied total against Sandy in this form. They're going to be in play. Nobody's drawn that great of a home run mark against Sandy, but there could be more upside for power. As I mentioned, he is at a sub 10 degree average launch, and he's been good throughout the career at limiting home runs, limiting power upside overall. But this form, maybe we find a little bit more success. Some of it's creeping through. A 6.44 for Yelich if he's in the lineup, a 5.83 for Churio. Rhys Hoskins at a 5.66, but then everybody else kind of undercut as far as the power output goes. Going to need to find some sequencing, but they're pretty decent at that. You've got multiple guys in this lineup with aggressively good on base percentages. Starting up top in the projected with Sal Frelick at a 353 on base, 15 steals, a 115 WRC plus. He's a correlated scoring option. He's not ideally priced at 4,400, 3,200. I don't love paying that price for this kind of a bat, but a lefty up at the top of the lineup against a scuffling righty, I could see my way to playing Frelick shares if I'm going Brewers. Let's put it that way. William Contreras at 43.28, continuing to bounce his way along this season. Really hasn't been good at anything other than drawing walks and getting to first base, which is very important, but not really what we're paying him to do. Or not what the Brewers are paying him to do anyway. 98 WRC plus is substandard, especially when it comes against a 351 on base. Sub 20% strikeouts is good. He does have a 42% hard hit rate, but we're so far down the ladder. 10% barrels down to 4.3 this year. Ouch. Yelich is just good. 261, 339, 461, a 200 ISO, 17 homers, 12 steals, a 123 WRC plus. Fire away. Solid lefty bat. Jackson Churio, 47.36. Continues to be weirdly priced on FanDuel given the season he's having, but 14 home runs, 15 steals, at least decent counting stats in those categories, 55 runs, 51 ribbies. So across the four categories, actually good counting stats, but unreliable at best in a lot of other areas where you kind of want to see some reliability. A 300 xWOBA, 101 WRC plus, 287 on base. He's high priced for the production. Playable, because especially when you can average things down with other guys in the stack. But those aren't ideal. Bryce Turang at 46, another kind of high price. 31 on FanDuel works a little better. Turang comes in at 287, 360, 379, giving you great on base, good correlated scoring, 112 WRC plus, 17 steals, just a .092 ISO. Limited as far as the bat on ball quality goes. A 45.8% hard hit rate is pretty good, but he's striking out a lot. 22.1% Ks, walking against that at a 10.4% clip. There are things to like, but he's just more a mid-range type player. And in that spot in the lineup, if he's hitting leadoff ahead of the power bats, you'll like him a little bit better. I think further down in the lineup, you'll like him a little bit better too. The pairing of him and Hoskins would be important. If I'm taking Turang, I'm probably putting him with Hoskins in a lot of those lineups, assuming they land, Turang in front of Hoskins in the Brewers' actual lineup. For one, it helps you get a little bit cheaper. For two, it's just buying the direct correlation from a guy who's likely to be on base with the immediate power bat that follows. Hoskins has hit a dozen home runs. He's got a 179 ISO. He's putting better bat on ball than that. 10.6% barrels, 45% hard hits. Could go up in a hurry as far as the power output goes. Never going to really hit for average, but always been good at getting on base. 3 true outcomes kind of hitter. Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin, Joey Ortiz, mix and match quality going down the list in diminishing form. 263, 371, 413 out of Collins. He's actually been pretty decent. 125 WRC plus. Easily the best of the bunch down there. The other two are not all that appealing, but Durbin has been better than Ortiz. Xavier Edwards slashing 286, 360, 326 to throw at Quinn Priester here. A priority if you're going to Marlins. And again, I do think, maybe a few Marlins as a hedge position now if you take a lot of Quinn Priester. It's different than what I started saying once we found out what the ownership actually looks like. But I think as a hedge to a bunch of Quinn Priester, it's still reasonable to take a few Marlin stacks, and Edwards would be in that. 4,000 is fine at second base on DraftKings, 29 on FanDuel for the hit tool for the average, the on base, and correlated scoring, with a stack that would probably then just immediately include the highlighted power bats. Jesus Sanchez at 36, 3,000. He's hit 7 home runs and 259 plate appearances. Typically disappointing actual output from Jesus. 159 ISO, a 102 WRC plus at least. An appealing 362 xWOB under the covers because we can immediately point to, again, just makes great contact. The results are never where they should be with this hitter, but he's cheap. He's a go-to bat when you go to the Marlins. Otto Lopez, mixed bag of a year, 253, 324, 379, a 95 WRC plus. A much better xWOBA under the covers, a 369 xWOBA under there. That doesn't really come on much premium contact, but a lot of walks, not that many strikeouts. So being on base as much as he is should help push some run creation over the mark as the season goes on, but he's not overly appealing. He's just kind of hitting third. Agustin Jimenez makes great contact. So does Kyle Stowers in sustainable form at this point. 312 plate appearances now out of Stowers. He's just been good. 15 home runs. The pace is kind of cool, but he's at 283, 357, 514, a 139 WRC plus, maintaining a 232 ISO. Ramirez has a 231 ISO right in front of him. He's at 13 home runs and fewer plate appearances. He came up and just kind of hit the ground running. And I don't know that we're talking about him necessarily enough. 3,800 as a catcher, 3,300 as a catcher. The people who definitely aren't talking about him enough are the people who are making the salaries over at DK. That is really cheap for a kid who's doing this as a catcher where you have to play the position. FanDuel's got it right at 3,300 where you don't have to play the position. He's a priority bat in this lineup. Wagaman started the season out okay. Now he's at 252, 288, 372, and 80 WRC plus. Tells you all you need to know. Does have a 45.6% hard hit rate. If you're building 3 Marlin stacks, he should be in one of them at first base probably. First, third outfield, maybe he sneaks into a second one on FanDuel, but he's in no way a priority in this lineup. Just another guy at every single one of those positions at best. Connor Norby, 8.6% barrels is interesting. Same thing with Dane Myers at a 7.5% barrel, 42.5% hard hit. Given the way those guys can make contact, I think they're a little bit more interesting maybe than Wagaman, even though he's at a 45.6% barrel, hard hit, and a 5.8% barrel. I think these two are a little bit more interesting. 4 home runs apiece out of those guys. 13 steals out of Dane Myers. He's slashing 297, 353, 411, a 114 WRC plus. Probably the most interesting bat given that 190 plate appearances that appears in those bottom 4. Just somebody to work in as you're going down lineup. And then Nick Fortes is down there. He can put decent bat on ball from time to time. 2 home runs and okay hard hit rate in his few plate appearances, 113 PA so far. Now that we know he's not all that popular, Quinn Priester. Really starting to like that, which is bad news. Quinn Priester Sandy on DraftKings, Brewers bats, Sandy on FanDuel, Marlins bats. Pretty sure. Tigers and the Guardians, both lineups are in. Let me grab the Tigers. So Reese Olson, the one thing we're probably going to lack here is depth. I think we're getting 5 and no more. As we talked about, was out, hasn't made a start in the show since May 17th. Made 3 minor league rehab starts, got out to 4 and change, or 4 innings in the last one. I would expect 5, but not beyond that. There are some strikeouts to support a little bit of upside in the 5 innings, but we're probably looking at a day where this is our ceiling rather than our median. I don't think we're blasting much beyond that as a ceiling with Reese Olson today. Comes in with a 25.4% strikeout rate over his 9 starts, 48 and 2/3, a very solid 2.96 ERA with a 3.55 xFIP, was inducing a monster 13.5% swinging strike rate with a 30.6% CSW. These are excellent numbers side by side there. Did have a 9.5% walk rate in those early starts. Last year, he was at a 21.7% strikeout and a 7.1% walk. Year before, 24.4 and 7.8. Was very good for swinging strikes both of those years, but found a little bit more CSW early in the season. Found a little bit of it via swinging strikes, but also was throwing more called strikes. So it'll be interesting to see how that just kind of comes through now that he's coming back from the absence. If that's sustained, I would expect him to continue with increased overall strikeouts and increased appeal. We'll see where the walks go with that. But he is a very talented pitcher. 88, 89 would be a reasonable price if I thought I could get a 6th inning into a 7th inning. I just don't think we're there. More playable on DK probably at 88. Like if I can get, especially on a slate like this, if I can get a reasonable 5 innings out of him with a little bit of wind bump out of the Tigers lineup going up against Slade Ciccone, I think that's worth maybe throwing some darts at. At 89 on FanDuel, where I lack my quality start, it's probably a little bit more challenging. Ciccone on the other side, I threatened to talk about it earlier in the show, and we're going to have to. 23.5% strikeout rate, not nothing. 11.6% swinging, 29.2% CSW against the team that is kind of offset low in this confirmed lineup by the 10% strikeout rate that Matt Vierling's carrying over 20 plate appearances. Last 2 years running, he was at 21%, so I think it would be fair to use that as his average. That's immediately going to push us back to Glaber's realistically low strikeout. But that immediately brings us back to 22.5, up from the 21.2 that's showing there. And a lot of these guys are more mid-20 strikeouts. So a lot of targets in there. This is a deadly good Tigers lineup, though. There's a lot of threat to a pitcher like Slade Ciccone. He comes in with a 3.64 ERA, a 4.08 xFIP, 7.8% walks against that pretty decent strikeout rate. He's not outrageous, but he's also not bad. Last year, 18.9% strikeouts, 5% walks. So we've seen a nice little uptick in the strikeouts, a little bit in the walks too, but that's to be expected. That was over 13 starts, 77 innings. That season pitched to a 6.66 ERA, a 4.70 xFIP. Did have a noteworthy 101.68 stuff plus rating, which is kind of oddly, with the increased performance, come down as these weird things happen. Give up a lot of premium contact and power last year. And given the extreme premium contact that he's allowed so far this year, we're probably pretty lucky to be at a sub 4% home run rate. This is why I said it's going to be dangerous when I talk about it. So if you're considering going there, it's for the strikeout upside that comes with facing the Tigers. But for every single Slade Ciccone share you take, I would probably take 2. Solo home run, Brett Beatty, Yankees 5-4 lead. I would probably take 2 shares of Tigers, maybe 3 for every share of Ciccone I take on the other side of that. Much more likely to see some power output come from the Tigers. You can see Gleyber, Winfield Perez at 8+ in the home run model. 2 guys well above the magic number in their 2 big bats in Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. If Gary Carpenter were here, he'd also be above that mark. A couple spots later, you get Parker Meadows as a playable piece. Dylan Dingler is a cheap catcher bat with a lot of power. It's a lot of threat to a guy with a 14% barrel rate allowed so far this year. It's over 8 starts and 42 innings. It's not a huge sample, but it's not a completely empty sample. It's not like he made 1 start and we're talking about 3 batted ball events. 92.1 miles an hour of exit velo, nearly a 50% hard hit rate on a 16.4 degree average launch. That 391% home run rate is high, and he's lucky to be that low. That could be 2-3 percentage points on top of that, which would be extreme, obviously. But it could be that ugly. I'm just a little intrigued for the strikeouts. The thing about that, though, is 91 on FanDuel. Oof. 82 on DraftKings is a little bit more tenable, but my God, they're not doing us any favors on this pitcher price-wise. He's slated on DraftKings to be right in the middle of the field in the mid-teens kind of ownership, right with everybody else. I think you take your shots, but if people are going there that aggressively, this is one I could probably also justify getting away from and maybe just leaning even more into some Tigers bats against him if I know people are going that way. It is a slate where with so many guys, there's 8 guys on DraftKings, basically projected between, let's say, 10 and 20%, slight edges on either side of that. So that's roughly half the pitchers right in that range. I think you pick a couple spots where you're going to get under the field on a guy and maybe attack him with bats. And I've kind of swung around the other way here, and I'm thinking that Ciccone might be one of those guys, given that ownership. Because, again, it really would just be about chasing a little bit of strikeout edge that maybe doesn't matter today against this team. If I'm going Tigers, 32.28 seems like a great price for Colt Keith off the top, given the 10.6% barrel, the 43% hard hits. Just a 157 ISO coming along with that, but a very nice, very appealing 369 xWOBA that tells us that all of his numbers across the board ought to increase. Leading off regularly ought to help with that as well. Even if he's just a target for correlated scoring, giving a 340 on base, that's excellent when you're hitting ahead of Glaber and all the power bats in this lineup. Glaber's been terrific this season, a 387 on base, 12.6% strikeouts and 13.8% walks. Back to the numbers that were such a dramatic improvement with the Yankees 2 years ago before he dipped a little bit and they got rid of him stupidly. I was saying it last year, all through the season, that it was going to get him off the end up with him off the team. Here we are. Should have been a Yankee for a significant chunk of the rest of his career, but I won't harp on it. 4,900 is expensive, but not overly so on DraftKings. 31 on FanDuel is entirely reasonable. Glaber can hit you a home run. He's going to get on base. Very likely correlated scorer with a little bit of individual upside. He's hit 9 on the season, 136 WRC plus. Wenceel Perez comes in with a 13.8% barrel over his 113 plate appearances. He's hit 6 home runs. He's got a 279 ISO, a 140 WRC plus. We've seen him succeed as a power bat in stretches like this. Do I want to pay $5,000 in just a full vacuum for Wenceel Perez? No, not in any universe. 2,800 is a lot more reasonable on FanDuel. But I think if you are rostering Tigers, considering he's hitting third at that price and what he's been capable of doing, 8.90 in the home run model against a pitcher giving up this much premium contact, he's a priority bat in this lineup, even at that price. Riley Green at 53.37, priority bat. He's their best hitter. 292, 344, 554 this year, 545 this year. A little dyslexia coming through. 253 ISO, a 149 WRC plus, 21 home runs. Riley Green's just star. He's really good. The one downside with him, a lot of strikeouts against not that many walks this year. 30.6 up from 26.7 last year, 27.4 the year before, with the walks coming down. But it doesn't really matter with given the quality of contact he's making. He's still getting on at a 344 clip. The fact that Spencer Torkelson is 45, where Wenceel Perez is 5,000 is a little bit funny. Maybe not if you're a Tigers fan. 19 home runs on the season for Torque. 13.3% barrels, 44.5% hard hits, major source of power, a 258 ISO, 129 WRC plus, and a 371 xWOBA under the covers. This team, I mean, look across those top 7 hitters. That's an average 363 xWOBA underneath the surface. For as good as this team has been, there's more to come. There's more to give. These guys are just good. Zach McKinstry, 3,900, 2,900, 4 positions on FanDuel, third base on DraftKings. Not ideal at third, but easily playable. Holding down a 290, 362, 454 slash line. Grading runs 30% better than average by WRC plus. It's a tremendous year from Vierling. He's just been really good. From McKinstry, rather. He's just been really good. My eyes jumped down to Matt Vierling in the next spot. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. McKinstry doesn't have an 18.8% barrel. Yeah, those barrel numbers, not realistic out of Matt Vierling, but he does put decent bat on ball. 2 years ago, a 42% hard hit rate against not that many barrels. Last year, 7.5% barrels against not that great a hard hit rate. He's medium to low strikeout, 21% strikeout, 7-8% walks the last couple seasons. It's around where I expect him. Line drives, bat on ball, cheap option in the outfield or third base. Not much more than your average guy, but not much less either. Parker Meadows at 35-26 could give you a little bit from the left side. He's got a little bit of power, a little bit of speed. Hasn't been showing much of it over 93 plate appearances, but the talent is there. He'll be one of the lower owned Tigers, and he's cheap. And then Dingler, 43.3% hard hits, 8.2% barrels, 8 home runs and 241 chances, and a pretty decent slash line out of a young catcher, 103 WRC plus. He's been very good. He's very, very cheap. It's just unideal to have him in the 9 spot, and you're not looking at him as a wraparound option. He's a plate cleaner more than a table setter. On the Guardian side, some appeal in targeting Reese Olson and then whatever comes out of the Tigers bullpen, but I'd rather lean toward the pitching if I had to in that equation. Fortunately, I can just kind of skip both sides. I don't think the Guardians are all that appealing here. The innings that Reese Olson's going to give us are probably going to be pretty quality. Stephen Kwan, though, would be a priority if you're going that way. 295, 358, 414, just doing Stephen Kwan things out there. Creating runs 20% better than average. Most of the 6 home runs came in one brief little stretch where he was hitting for a little situational power. Capable of doing it, but not a frequent contribution. 11 steals, he's a correlated scorer. Kyle Manzardo at 35-27 is interesting, but you have the positional conflict still in place with Carlos Santana on DraftKings. Less so on FanDuel, but at least, does create a discussion around your util spot. Both those guys are very cheap on both sides. 13 home runs on the board from Manzardo, 10 from Carlos Santana. Both those guys can go deep. Manzardo's been the more reliable power bat overall with a 220 ISO and 276 chances versus Santana's just 133, 106 and a 103 WRC plus. Playable pieces, both mix and match your way across shares if you're going to more than one Guardian stack. Jose Ramirez at 58.35, a very reasonably priced superstar. Look at those numbers. He's just terrific. 132 WRC plus. Just play him. He's a very good one-off option for a high price at third base. Just a 184 ISO. Maybe something worth calling out this season. 13 home runs, 21 steals, though. He's been pretty tremendous. We've talked a lot about Nolan Jones and Lane Thomas. I'm going to lay off a little bit until they actually start performing, but both guys had tremendous years 2 years ago, and their skills have completely eroded since then. Nolan Jones is still making good contact with 9% barrels, 47.2% hard hits. The results haven't been there at all. But between the two, if you need something to grab, at least he's making that good contact for 26, for 25, cheaper than Lane Thomas. Daniel Schneemann for 34.25, 8 home runs, 5 steals, pretty mediocre slash line, but a 97 WRC plus, a more encouraging 331 xWOBA. He's playable. He's not that appealing, but to fill out a Guardian stack that you probably don't need to take, sure, he's playable. He's cheap. Bo Naylor can put good wood on the ball from the catcher spot, 10.6% barrels. He's hit 9 home runs and 220 chances. He's always playable. He's never all that appealing. And then Ano Martinez rounds out the lineup. Realistically, Tigers bats. Short shares of Reese Olson with low expectations, mostly on DraftKings. And again, low expectations. You're looking for 5 innings and a win bonus. And it's probably not the right price for that. I'll put Slate Ciccone after that. I just think he's a little bit overowned. Again, mid-teens ownership like the entire slate. But that doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies if I'm going to play Slate Ciccone. On FanDuel, he's just overpriced at 91. So Tigers bats are the big takeaway here. And then Guardians bats bring up the bottom. Orioles and the Bravos. Do need to pick up a little bit of time. Yeah, Ricky Lee, exactly. Who needs Glaber when you have 80-year-old DJ LeMahieu, who apparently the players had to get involved and talk them out of DFAing him. Keith Vape just subscribed. Appreciate you, buddy. Thank you. It's all to God. T-Bone is the effing best. Appreciate you too, bud. Thank you much. I do try. Happy 4th back at you too, Keith Vape. So let's keep on rolling through this thing. We're taking our sweet time through those first few games. Do have a 6:40 start to keep in mind. We'll be out of here well before that, but I like to give at least like an hour after the show with the fully updated lineup. So let's see what we can do. Orioles 371 implied total against the best pitcher on the slate, 10,9,500. Affordably priced Spencer Strider is incredibly appealing. He is in half of all lineups on both sites. So do with that information what you will. very likely to put up a pretty monster start here. Could get nailed. These Orioles do have a little bit of power. Everybody in the lineup is showing around the middle of the board as far as, 5, 6s, and 7s in the home run model. That's literally top to bottom in the home run column right here. So they're not off the board. Strider's given up a 9.1% barrel this year, 41.3% hard hit, 92.2 miles an hour of exit velo in his 9 starts, his 49 innings. Hasn't hurt him, just a 2.5% home run rate allowed on a 14.9 degree average launch. Was very difficult to hit home runs against. Well, not in that 2 starts that year, but prior to that, 2.88% home runs on kind of similar contact. A little bit less in the hard hit department, the exit velo department. Just difficult to square up when he's got an 18.9% swinging strike rate, a 33.8% CSW. Obviously, this is him in peak form, and we're not really dealing with that, but we are dealing with more than enough at 14.7% swinging, 29.6% CSW to blaze a trail through all these strikeouts in this Orioles lineup. As I went through before, only him and someone who's not in the lineup today are below even a 22% strikeout rate against righties this year. Everybody in this lineup strikes out quite a bit against right-handed pitching. Tons of Ks available here for Spencer. Anthony Taylor saying Strider might go out, try to put his name back in the conversation for Cy Young today. Could be. Could be that kind of a day. He'd have his work cut out for him getting the Cy Young conversation, but definitely would be a nice day to see him come out and much like that Colorado game a few starts ago, just kind of put his stamp back on his season here a little bit. And this Vegas total is kind of telling you that, right? That's looking at a lot of strikeouts from the Orioles. Maybe they hang a couple runs around his neck. It bends his day slightly, but he's got the unique upside on this slate to kind of push his way through that, even if they put a couple runs up against him. It's more ability to find an offset for a bad inning, a few runs. He's got a lot more of that than Chris Bubich is going to give you. And again, we're talking about a guy who's going to be 50% owned versus everybody else down here is in the teens or lower. And on FanDuel, everybody else other than Strider is in the 10% or lower range. But he is unique with his ability to, if they go out, somebody hits Colton Cowser hits a 3-run home run. He could still give you 12 strikeouts and blow away the slate as far as fantasy score goes. And nobody else has that ability on this slate. Charlie, 75-72. Speaking of guys who could go out and strike out like 10. Charlie's got a 23.3 strikeout rate this year. Comes on 10.8% swinging. It goes against a 10.3% walk, 5.63 ERA, but a 4.10 xFIP underneath it. That's still a manageable xFIP. He's been really bad in spots, looked like an old washed-up pitcher in spots, but he's also been really, really good in some spots. At 75, at 72, you guys know I like this Braves team. You know I like the power upside that they've got around Acuna, around Olsen, Riley, but even some of those guys showing lower than average home run marks. So seeming more like a Charlie Morton mid-price kind of a day, maybe through those attributes at these 75, 72 with no ownership, at least worth a few darts. That said, the 489 implied total kind of puts the Braves back on your radar. I think they'll probably get a little bit more popular than maybe the Charlie shares do, though. In that back and forth mix, it gets really interesting between which you'd rather have. 62-43 for Acuna, 9 home runs, 4 steals, monster season, over 159 chances. Just needs to stay in the lineup, and it will be positive outcomes more often than not. Matty Olson at 52-37, just acquired him in the Dynasty League. 16 home runs on the year. Going to have a monster second half for us and put us over the top for the title. Austin Riley at 43-3,000 has a dozen home runs. He was already on the Dynasty team. Another major part and a guy who should have a huge second half. Given the premium contact those two guys make, I fully believe in that statement. 389 and a 343 xWOBA to help back it up. Having Ronnie Acuna back above them, hopefully an improved second half from guys like Ozuna, guys like Ozzie Albies, Michael Harris. Drake Baldwin's been really good this year. He carries an 11.1% barrel, 51.9% hard hits. He's at 9 home runs and just 183 chances from the left side as a cheap catcher bat. There's a lot to like with this Braves team. Jurickson Profar, 2 home runs, 261, 292, 522. Keeps playing like this, they're going to drug test him again. We'll see what comes of it. Not a hitter I like. Hitter I'll play if I'm going to Braves here. $3,900, $2,800. He's very cheap for what the upside could be hitting in that spot in this lineup. Ozzie Albies and Michael Harris at 35, 33, 27, 25 across sites are not poorly priced for the output. They've been atrociously bad this year, but they're affordable for what we know they are in a lineup that we probably want to get to at a 4.9-ish kind of a total. It's a lot of playability in the Braves. Even include Acuna and Olsen here, and then you get Riley, the next most obvious bet, and then you're immediately, even if you take Ozuna and the obvious path through Baldwin, you're already at 47.40, so 4,800 apiece for a stack that includes Acuna, Olsen, Riley, Ozuna, and Drake Baldwin. And you can get it cheaper from there with some of the other bats without having to use Nick Allen, who is only here for defense. On the Orioles side, even with all the strikeouts in tow, there is some cause for at least talking about targeting a few shares against a 50% owned pitcher. Especially when they come in as cheap as they do, with some talent, with some numbers showing. Again, not much above halfway to the magic number for any of these guys, but all of those guys are at least halfway to the magic number. Reasonable playability there. Everybody cheap. Big bats like Gary Sanchez hiding down lineup. Gary's got 5 home runs in 95 plate appearances. He's carrying a 200 ISO with 343 xWOB under the surface, 9.5% barrels, and 57.1% hard hits. Gary also is very likely to strike out 3 times against Spencer Strider, give you a 0 way more often than not in this spot. But if he connects, ball will travel. Tyler O'Neill is off the IL. First start back. He's 3,700, 2,500. Like we forgot who Tyler O'Neill is. 93 pretty bad plate appearances to start his season. Then he's been on the IL. Last year, dude hit 31 home runs, had a 270 ISO, 131 WRC plus, and that came in only 473 plate appearances because he always makes a trip to the IL. Could come roaring back to life in the second half. Year before was mostly a lost season, but in 266 chances, hit 9 home runs, a 172 ISO, 14 and 14 in 383 chances was a down year back in 2022. There's more productivity as you go back over time. He is a potential monster at the bottom of this lineup. Even in the bad start to the year, 16.4% barrels. Tyler O'Neill can hit. Ced Mullins, cheap mix and match guy, a dozen home runs that came in a hurry, 8 steals, sub 300 on base now, crashing down toward the Mendoza line at 213 in the average department. Still carrying a 193 ISO, just a 99 WRC plus, but not far below the average. He's a mixer from the bottom spot in the lineup. He's a wraparound play. Despite not getting on base that frequently, he does have the other attributes you'd want in a wraparound play, so he's a loose-fitting one from there. Everybody above that stretch of hitters is more obvious and going to be more popular in the people that go to the Orioles to attack Spencer Strider and his 50% ownership on both sides. But they're very usable, even if they get within Orioles stacks a little bit more popular. And it's going to be very low popularity overall. Colton Cowser's super interesting. 11.4% barrels, 45.7% hard hits, 7 home runs already in 112 chances, a 272 ISO. Hit a whole bunch. What is it, 26 home runs last season? 24 home runs last season. That's close. Ramon Laureano, 10 homers, 279, 348, 520, a 240 ISO. We'll see what this team does as far as this lineup going forward. But tonight we've got both Laureano and Tyler O'Neill in the lineup. You get a big righty back, Gary Sanchez here. It's interesting, the mix of righty lefties. They did work in. Those lefties are pretty regular up at the top. They're just geared up toward the top of the lineup. But Gunner's always there. Ryan O'Hearn is always there. O'Hearn's the threat. The low strikeout, 16.1 overall, and a very good low strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. 11 home runs, an excellent slash line on the season. He could be the guy who maybe bends the day a little bit. You know, he goes out, gets on base. Cowser or somebody a couple spots later knocks one over the wall. You get a little bit of a different kind of score out of Strider. Gunner at 42.34. Extremely, extremely affordable at that price on DraftKings. FanDuel's got it correct. You just hang with the high price. 3,400 is not bad. He could easily be a few hundred more, even with this current year's performance. 276, 347, 447, creating runs 23% better than average with 10 homers and 10 steals. Not a bad year. He's just a little bit underperforming expectations. Still a great hard hit rate, has lost some of his barrels along the way. Jordan Westberg is playable. 7 home runs on the board at 206 ISO, hitting the ball very hard over 147 chances. Limited output otherwise, but extremely playable at second base for the money. And then Jackson Holiday, also second base on DraftKings, but you've got third base eligibility on Westberg if you want it. 31 on FanDuel, second base and shortstop. Holiday's hit 10 home runs, stolen 9 bags, creating runs 1% better than average. Very solid premium contact numbers. He's always in consideration, and you want the lefty, you want the leadoff bat if you're going to this team to attack Spencer Strider with. Take advantage of the bonus plate appearances that aren't going to be owned. Hey, Don, what's going on, buddy? Hello back to you. Don's asking, for GPP, would you stack San Francisco and A's and pass on the Rockies game? Yes. I like that thought. As I said, I very much think that this game plays more like Coors maybe than this one does. And my hope is that people don't necessarily see it that way. These are 2 big totals, no doubt about it. But these are 2 way worse teams than these 2. And these 2 teams are getting big-time boosts in that ballpark. So, yeah, especially you get the matchup against JP Sears, pushing some power in the Giants' direction. A lot of appealing bats in that lineup. I like it. Home run pick of the day comes from that Giants lineup. We'll get there. We went through the Braves. We went through the O's. Strider with a bullet, even with that ownership. You can go there, I would say, up to the field and honestly probably beyond. I'm interested to see. I'm going to let the Sims and Sorts dictate where I end up landing on that. I don't think I'm going to put my thumb on the scale one way or the other. Strider, Braves bats, cheap Charlie Morton at low ownership, and then maybe a few wild card Orioles shares just because Strider is so crushingly popular. Do not relish the idea of attacking Spencer Strider, though. This is that Coors Field game. White Sox lineup is in. So it's kind of it's a weird squishy thing meets a soft plays kind of a thing. It's not like a rock in a hard place. It's not a oops. I put that in the Rockies, didn't I? That's what I get for trying to make clunky analogies when I'm trying to paste a lineup in. It's not, that's what I was trying to say. It's not like an unstoppable force, meaning an immovable object. It's like all of these things suck, and they're just kind of colliding with one another. Adrian Hauser is probably the most appealing, just raw thing in this game, and it's really only on DraftKings at 7,000. On FanDuel, he costs 9,400, and I find that offensive. 1.90 ERA, sure, but he's got a 4.06 xFIP. This is over 7 starts and 42 2/3. 18.1% strikeouts and 8.2% walk rate. Yes, as I mentioned at the start of the show, we have used pitchers in Coors Field more aggressively this season because of how bad and how high strikeout this Rockies lineup is. Adrian Hauser, that's why he's in the conversation at 7,000 on DraftKings, but not at 94 on FanDuel. You can, of course, find a path to success with that, and he will be low owned. So you could throw a few shares at it, but it's so much less appealing at that price outside of just a wild card that people are going to own less and a point of leverage. It's just unlikely to succeed. Even against this team, they're pulling a 5.29 implied total against him. He doesn't really strike hitters out that frequently. Last time out, 5 Ks, but it came over 7 innings against the Giants. 4 hits, no runs. It was a good start. No denying what he's done DFS start-wise. 6 1/3 of 2-run ball, 7 hits allowed to Toronto. At Toronto, struck out 4, walked 3. Struck out just 2, walked 4, gave up a home run, 3 earned runs on 6 hits over 5 at Texas. 4 straight 6-inning starts on his return going back to May 20th. Struck out 6 exactly in 3 of those. We talked about it at the time, has been a little bit diminished in 2 of the 3 starts since, and then was terrific in that start against the Giants. So again, I wouldn't be shocked by 7 innings of 2-3 run ball here, 4-5 strikeouts, have yourself an okay day. That's not a $9,400 start on FanDuel. On DraftKings for 7, sure. Sensatella at 5, Sensatella at 7, Sensatella for free. probably more likely to give you a negative. 6.69 ERA, a 5.09 xFIP, 10.7% strikeouts, monster, 6.8% swinging strikes. He's just bad. Don't play him. White Sox bats against. Considering they're probably going to be popular, like I said, I'd much rather get to that Giants Rockies, that Giants Athletics game. Come on. There we go. God damn it. I hate when the ownership disappears right when I need it. Obviously, we're not revealing the numbers here, but that's uncomfortable. The White Sox, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 bats from the White Sox owned into the mid-teens and beyond. Like, I like our pals over at RG. I use their optimizer, and therefore I see what their ownership numbers are. And I agree with these ownership numbers. It's not about that. I rarely mention when they have their little highlights, their expert play highlights on a guy. I don't like talking about calls from other sites or anything like that. They have 4 of them. 4 of the experts calling out Andrew Benintendi today. I guess. I mean, sure. He's a Coors Field. He's a lefty facing Antonio Senzatella. Like, Joker could tell you that he's a reasonable option today. You need to pay a subscription fee to get that information? Seems weird. I just think that's not something you want to lead people to. To me, the fact that he's going to be owned in the mid-teens and probably into the 20s is the thing to call out. It's still Andrew Benintendi. I don't care that he happens to be playing in Colorado. I care to some degree. I care about the pitching matchup. I care to some degree, like I said, about the ballpark. But there's a lot of weight in the fact that it's still Andrew Benintendi. Yeah, he hit 10 home runs. Yeah, he's carrying a 206 ISO, a very solid 13.4% barrel that is wildly uncharacteristic. He's slashing 234, 291, 439 coming into this game. 1% below average at run creation and declining. This is not a good player. Mike Tauchman's more interesting. Mike Tauchman, I know for sure, at least gets on base. He has realistic power around the level that he's hitting it at. The hard hits are up a little bit over the last 2 years. The barrels are pretty realistic, a little results based there. The walks are in line with expectations. The on base is in line with expectations, as is the run creation mark, which is driven by the on base skills. Mike Tauchman's no star, but he's better than Andrew Benintendi, full stop. Chase Meteroth at 43.32, continuing a decline, 257, 346, 304. Another player who's more interesting than the Benintendis of the world. Fits in at middle infield. He's a table setter and nothing more. But a few base hits, maybe he scores a couple of runs on the back of if Benintendi happens to come through. Maybe if Miguel Vargas comes through, somebody like that. But it's a really ugly team to have to rely on, even again at Coors Field, even again at this pitcher. Best case scenario, you're riding along with a bunch of the field that also rostered terrible White Sox at cheap prices, then went to the exact same expensive pitchers and the exact same expensive second stack. I'd rather just go a different direction. I think that Sims and sorts would bear that out, at least to some degree. Miguel Vargas at 41.32, 10 home runs. He's been stuck on those 10 home runs for a minute now. Everything is declining around that number. He's never been good. 9.2% barrels, 42.2% hard hits. Big uptick in the early part of the season over what he's done in the years past. We were saying then that we needed to see it continue, and it mostly has not. Brooks Baldwin, 33.27 is cheap. 4 home runs, a pretty bad slash line. Once upon a time was thought of as a good prospect and somebody who was going to hit. Hasn't done yet. Edgar Caro is more interesting than most of the guys in this lineup. 3,600 for a cheap catcher at Coors Field. I can get into endorsing that on DraftKings. 46.7% hard hit despite not barreling a ball yet. 272, 344, 314. Another guy who's at least getting on base, a table setter, just a 90 WRC plus, but at least he's there. Colson Montgomery making his debut in this game, 3,000, another kid who's expected to hit a little bit. Forgot he was going to be there. I meant to have his page loaded up here. Monty, 261, 242 AAA plate appearances. 19 came at the complex. 242 AAA plate appearances this year, 11 home runs on the board, 2 stolen bases, slashing just 218, 298, 435, though, an 83 WRC plus, a 218 ISO, so all power, nothing else so far in AAA this year. This is a 23-year-old. He's right on time age-wise. In 573 plate appearances, all in AAA last year, he hit 18 home runs, a 167 ISO, had a 214, 329, 381 slash line. That was as a 22-year-old in his first exposure at AAA. There is power here. There is a realistic development bat here, but in no way is Colson Montgomery actually fully baked. It's just he's at Coors Field facing Antonio Sensatella, so you cannot get a more ideal debut situation than this. Should be very popular at these prices. If he's not, fire away in your White Sox stacks. That is quite possibly the top priority bat in the White Sox lineup. How old is he individually? All right, that's kind of interesting. Colson Montgomery and the guy who follows him, who you guys, if you've ever watched this show before, know that we like, Michael A., both owned in the low to mid single digits per these projections. I could get into the idea of grabbing these two guys and then, like, again, those two, and then I'll compromise on one of the highly owned bad players in the middle there to fill it. Actually, no, I won't. I would take Edgar Cato there. I would 100% skip Andrew Benintendi, Miguel Vargas, and Brooks Baldwin in the middle and go to these three and those two if I was stacking White Sox. And I'm at 37.20 a man, and I've got the 5 guys I believe are the best 5 hitters in this lineup. These guys up here aren't going to be totally low owned. I mean, Mike Tauchman's very, very popular. Meadroth is fairly popular. Edgar Cato, per these projections, not popular at all. Same thing with Colson Montgomery and Michael A. That makes this a little bit more appealing, a little bit more interesting, actually, thinking that part of it through. On FanDuel, I would suspect it's even more aggressively low-owned once you get down to that territory. So kind of interesting. Michael A. hasn't done much this season in 178 plate appearances, 4 home runs, 7 steals, and 84 WRC plus. Obviously, you're underwhelming. So anybody who calls up his FanDuel profile or his DraftKings profile and looks at the numbers, you're going to be like, ugh, I don't want that guy. And that's why he always goes low-owned, which is why he's always appealing for our purposes at the bottom of a lineup for a very, very cheap price. Look at his barrel and hard hit numbers. Entirely consistent with what he's done in years past. Hard hit is obviously up some, but he has always been able to put good wood on the ball. And when it comes through, you get him at no ownership. So considering I do that in the popular stack of the day at Coors Field against Sensatella, that makes the bottom of the White Sox lineup more interesting. Josh Rojas is down there as well, and we're very happy for him. On the Rockies side, not confirmed yet. Definitely interesting bats there. We're throwing him against Adrian Hauser, who, again, has been good. He's been limiting premium contact. He's been limiting home run output. He's been limiting runs overall. But that xFIP is a full 2 runs higher than his ERA. He doesn't really strike guys out. He does walk hitters. Walks kind of challenging for these Rockies to go find, but maybe today's the day where you get a couple. They're very high strikeout. They put good bat on ball other than the Ks. When they happen to connect, there's 5 guys in this lineup with double-digit barrel rates. There are 5 guys in this lineup who can very realistically hit a home run and bend Adrian Hauser's day, especially at that offensive FanDuel price. Tyler Freeman's a mix and match option out of the top spot. 328, 414, 430 so far, 127 WRC plus. A lot of appeal is like a line drive hitter, a leadoff man at Coors Field to correlate directly into shares of Hunter Goodman, Jordan Beck with their power upside. 16 home runs for Goodman, 5,600, 3,800 is the only expensive player on this team, really. Fits in at catcher, though, so it makes it a little bit worthwhile on DraftKings, especially when you can average it down with everybody else. Kind of works that way. 16 homers on the year, a 239 ISO, 10 homers and a 199 ISO, a 108 WRC plus for Jordan Beck in 307 plate appearances. A respectable enough slash line too. Ryan McMahon does Ryan McMahon things, always will. 12 home runs, pretty weak as far as the slash. Too many strikeouts, but draws walks. Good barrel and hard hit numbers. Tyler Estrada is just kind of in the middle of the lineup, finding some success via BABIP, low strikeout, low walk rate. So just some contact, just a correlated scoring option though. Michael Talia at 35-31. Saw a little hit streak going since his return to the lineup. It's been a few games since he hit a home run. He hit, I think, 3 in the first couple games back, and then it's been like 11 games since he hit one. 9 on the board for the season. The production has been off and on, but definitely one of the guys in this lineup. They can hit the ball very hard. Opportunity definitely against a low strikeout pitcher like Hauser for him to put bat on ball and find something today. Brenton Doyle's kind of similar to that. 201, 252, 320, 6 homers, 8 steals. A lot more talent than that. A lot more batted ball event, high quality batted ball events than that line would suggest. So another player, high priority, bad performance late in the lineup. Junquil Fernandez, 26-25, down bottom of the lineup. One of their higher end prospects. We talked about him yesterday. Decent, maybe it was the day before. 13 home runs and 271 chances for AAA this season. PCL team. Just a 96 WRC plus, but a 218 ISO. Was slashing 284, 347, 502. And had good slash line, good on base, and positive WRC plus marks in stops throughout the minors on his way up. Still just 22. So actually a young prospect level kid for this team, just joining a bunch of other young hard hitting types, might fit right on theme with this group of players. Ryan Ritter is a mix and match talent so far at the bottom of the lineup. They are expecting him to hit a little bit as well. 81 pretty weak plate appearances so far. Adrian Hauser on DraftKings. The very top and then the bottom half of the White Sox lineup. The entirety of the Rockies lineup, the middle of the White Sox lineup, and then Adrian Hauser on FanDuel for a few shares at that way too high price. No Senzatella in any way, shape, or form. You can usually find ways to justify bad pitchers at low prices, when they get to that 5,000, 4,000, so on range. With Senzatella, there is quite literally not a reason to play him. He is that bad. 74-76 for Lance McCullers, whose stats aren't coming up because of that stupid junior in his name. Apologies to his father. 6.61 ERA on the season, a 4.37 xFIP, a 25.3% strikeout rate, 12.7% walks, giving up a lot of premium contact. There were a few good starts along the way. In there, he was kind of rounding into form before he went on that little stint on the IL. Pair of 6-inning starts, 3 earned runs, but struck out 12 against the Athletics back on May 28th. Then a good 6-inning start, 2 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts, and a walk against the Pirates. Had him picked up in the Dynasty League for that one. Disappointed us in the follow-up to that start, though. That was against the White Sox. Went 5, gave up 4 earned, struck out 6, and walked 4. And then followed that with a 3 1/3 performance, 8 earned runs, 3 home runs allowed, a strikeout, and 4 walks against the Cubbies. And then hit, that was the return. He left after that White Sox game. That was on the 10th. That was the return to action, was the 28th against the Cubs. All those numbers still stand. That was just, there was 17 days on the IL in between. Considering that it was a bad start, maybe 5 innings would have been in the cards that day if things go well. I think 5 innings is maybe playable here, or is maybe, what they're expecting here. But given that it would be 5 innings against the Dodgers when they're drawing a 5.45 implied total against his already pretty bad numbers for the year, I think we just stay away. I don't really see much ceiling on top of the projections here. Maybe he gets into like the mid-20s. Maybe he cracks like 14, 15, but I'm skeptical. Much rather have Dodgers bats against, I think. Going the other way, Kasparius, 72-65. Reasonably priced, honestly, for 5 innings from him with win equity. I don't hate it. It's a weird gamble on FanDuel. You can get a lot of bats into a FanDuel lineup for that. You're almost certainly not getting the quality start here, and it is a low strikeout opponent, so it's not ideal to roll those dice with. Kasparias comes in with a 3.97 ERA, 3.65 xFIP in his hybrid bulk relief role. 23.2% strikeouts against 5.2% walks with upside for more Ks, given a 13.5% swinging strike rate. 117 mark by Stuff Plus. He's got ridiculous stuff. He is excellent, poised to be either a lights out high leverage reliever or just a ace caliber pitcher. We'll see which direction it goes. Right now, kind of caught in between. I think you could fire away a couple times at 72 on DraftKings. At 65 on FanDuel, it's more, are you inclined to gamble, right? Are you inclined to think that you can play that, book a few points, rely on the fact that it's a pretty plateauy kind of a slate ownership-wise across a lot of mediocre pitchers, some of whom will succeed, some of whom will get got at higher prices, and then half the field on Spencer Strider at a much, much higher price? Can you get by with 65, no quality start, a win, and a handful of strikeouts from Kasparias on FanDuel with that? I think you can. I think if you're going to play that kind of a play on FanDuel, it's the right pitcher for it, and it's probably the right slate for it. It's just more straightforward at the price on DraftKings. Less of that math comes into play. Astros bats against would be in play a little bit. They're drawing a 4.16 implied total. You get a half a bullpen game here anyway. Isaac Paredes up at the top, 41.35, fairly priced, especially cheap on DraftKings for a guy with 17 home runs, a very solid slash line, a 133 WRC plus. Take advantage of that price. That is very, very low price for a guy who's as productive as Paredes has been. 35 on FanDuel is fair at third base. Jake Myers at 37.28, very solid 312 plate appearances. I still don't really believe in sustained success, but it's just like a line drive correlated scoring type. As long as he's hitting second between Paredes and Altuve, ahead of Cam Smith, other bats that I want to get to, perfectly playable. 119 WRC plus. Altuve, 13 home runs, 6 steals. Don't worry about some parts of the slash line. Just kind of focus on the good. That's what I'm trying to do. 16.8% strikeouts, 8.1% walks. At worst, you're getting some Jose Altuve quality bat on ball, and we'll see what happens. 45-32, the results have been all over the place this year. Cam Smith at 3,500, 2,900, having a pretty decent 281 plate appearances. Remember, this didn't start out great. Made the team out of camp and then kind of hit the skids for like a month. And now he's at 291, 359, 445. 129 WRC plus, a 352 xWOB under the covers, 7 home runs and 281 chances. Very affordable. Kind of interesting. Victor Caratini is a player that we talk about all the time when he's in the lineup. I probably should have checked if this lineup was in. It's not, thankfully. Caratini is a player we can go to. He has always been capable of squaring a ball up for a cheap price. So far this year, 7.9% barrels, just under 40% hard hits. Last couple of years, it's been more like 5% barrels, mid-5s, and 40+% hard hits. It's a fair exchange. He's got 7 home runs, a reasonable slash line, 96 WRC plus. For DFS purposes, you can take that shot. Jainer Diaz is underperforming his talent, period. 10 home runs, 244, 273, 385. At least we're getting a little power output for our 7.6% barrels, our 43.3% hard hits. The frequency with which that contact comes, that is one attribute that has not changed. He is right in line with expectations as far as the low strikeout and low walk rates. So we're getting good and similar quality of bat on ball. He's just found a little bit less success as far as the results go. Everything is in line. This is one of those spots like Francisco Lindor at the beginning of last year for like a month was kind of scuffling. And it was like, no, everything is fine for all the key indicators. That's the case with Jainer Diaz. It's just been a little bit longer of a stretch of underperformance this year. But the kid is good. I've shown this before, but it's been a minute. Last year in 619 chances, 299, 325, 441. You don't do that over 619 chances as a catcher if it's not real. Year before that, 23 home runs in 377 chances while slashing 282, 308, 538 with a 256 ISO. Again, as a catcher and a guy who plays every single day. Tons and tons and tons and tons of upside for the money. 36, 28. He's too cheap. Just too cheap. Again, Kasparias is good. But that's a priority bat for me if I'm going Astros. Will be through the end of the season, even if he doesn't start performing better. Christian Walker, 34.29. Another priority bat, honestly, if you're going to this team. His price has gotten so low for the guy that this guy's been over the last 3-4 seasons. He's got 10 home runs, just a 138 ISO, but he does have an 11.4% barrel, 44.7% hard hit. These numbers are down from the last two seasons, but they're not crazy far down. They're, in fact, better than 2 years ago in both categories. Strikeouts are up, walks are down. That's where a lot of the problems come from. Again, last year, 26 home runs, a very good slash line, a 119 WRC plus with 217 ISO. Year before, a monster season with 33 homers, 333 on base, 239 ISO, 120 WRC plus. Year before that, 36 home runs, a 327 on base, a 235 ISO, 122 WRC plus. Do you see the theme forming here? Christian Walker is in his 30s, but he's not that old, right? What is he, 32? 34. Maybe it slipped. At 32, I would have said not yet. 34, just turned 34. Maybe it's slipping. I would believe it in a longer term, but I mean, this sudden to just turn off that way, I don't buy it. I'm still a buyer at these prices. If he was high priced, even if he was like 45 DraftKings kind of reduced price, I'd be like, all right, like Jose Altuve. I'd be at least tempered. At this price, you could just get excited. He's just too cheap. Even if it's just about this year's contact, he's just too cheap. Cooper Hummer, Mauricio Dubon are also down at the bottom of the lineup. Mix and match quality players. Dodgers lineup speaks for itself. Shohei Ohtani's a superstar. 30 home runs, 12 steals, 385 on base, 173 WRC plus. I guess I'll be speaking for the Dodgers lineup. Mookie Betts underperforming his talent this season. 10 home runs, a pretty weak slash line for Mookie Betts, a 98 WRC plus. Not where we expect him. Prices come way, way down. 4,500 is cheap for Mookie. 3,200 on FanDuel, still with his multi-position eligibility. He's very appealing when you get him at these prices. It makes it more appealing to look at the mid-range Dodgers. And by that, I mean, stars like Freddie Freeman, stars like Will Smith. All these guys are kind of affordable in that stretch. I've been doing in the last few days this leave Shohei out equation. And I mean, that 5-man is now 4,620. Which is a little bit more affordable than you'd otherwise get the Dodgers, and you can work Conforto in and bring it down further. Same thing on FanDuel. You're in the $3,300 range there. With a mid-5 implied total, it's really appealing. Will Smith, 324, 425, 547. When we talk about the best hitting catcher eligible players in the entire realm of DFS, he's probably the name at the top. Apologies to Cal Raleigh. Will Smith is a tremendous hitter. Great hit tool, great walk skills, low strikeout, premium bat on ball, power. Not power like Cal Raleigh's got, but plenty of power, 20, 25 home run power. Freddie Freeman at 5,000, 3,500 is a bargain. 312, 382, 507, a 145 WRC plus. Don't overthink it. It's Freddie Freeman. Teoscar comes in with an 11.5% barrel, 45.5% hard hits. You run into the bottom of the lineup with Andy Pajas, Michael Conforto, both in the 8% barrel range. Obviously having very different seasons, but I will not stop talking. I don't care how much anybody wants me to about how much upside Michael Conforto has at 2,900, at 2,600. Monster premium contact that is below what he's done in the past, but jibes with those numbers. 7 home runs in 279 chances, bad output. 135 ISO, same thing. Even worse at 177, 297, 312. That's atrocious output. But I will continue to believe when a guy can walk at a 12.2% clip and put this kind of wood on the ball, there is talent there. And we've seen it from Michael Conforto over the years. Maybe it's been a minute, but he at least hit 20 home runs in 488 chances last year, 15 in 470 the year before, missed all of 2022, and then there was more talent back over time. Conforto is better than this. He's very, very cheap. Tommy Edman, Hee-Sung Kim down the bottom of the lineup. Kim's been really good in fewer than 100 plate appearances. Somebody to watch, getting on at a 415 clip. At worst, he's an interesting wraparound piece. If you're going Ohtani up at the top, maybe he helps you bring that price down and you leave somebody else out. Edman, mix and match quality. It's who he's always been. Second base eligible. He's perfectly fine to stick into a lineup. He's no longer expensive, so it's easy enough to get to. It's probably Dodgers bats up top, then followed, I think, by the interesting Kasperius play on both sides. I think it's at least worth looking at. Then Astros bats and then Lance McCullers. I really don't see much reason to play McCullers here. 547. Hour-ish till under an hour till the FanDuel start. We got to get moving. All right, Bubic, Erod. Erod's always problematic. 5.13 ERA, but a 3.88 xFIP. 24.4% strikeouts, but 8.2% walks. 10.4% swinging, but 25.8% CSW. Bad rating by Stuff Plus. Too many home runs, but it doesn't come on any real kind of premium contact, just some fly balls that travel further than other fly balls. It's Erod. It's a total wild card on this slate, especially given the makeup of this slate. There's no reason to expect that he couldn't come out there, give you 7 innings of shutout ball with 7-8 strikeouts in his pocket. There's also no reason to expect that he couldn't come out there, give you 4 innings of 7-run ball with 2 strikeouts in his pocket, 6 walks, and a bunch of hits against. He's just that much of a roller coaster. I think you do take shots at 78 on DraftKings. 96 on FanDuel is asking a lot of Erod on a slate like this. He's in that same mix as the other overpriced pitchers on this slate. You can play him. You should have some shares across a lot of lineups. He's very unreliable for one lineup. Bubic at 98, 10-2 gives you a little bit more potential feeling of safety anyway. The performances, he's given up a handful of runs in each of his last 4 outings, starting with a 5 earned run day against the Yanks, 4 1/3, struck out 3, walked 4. Strikeouts have come down slightly. He was in the 9 range for a stretch in the middle of the season for a handful of starts in a row. Dipped down 3 strikeouts, 6, 8 was a bounce back start, and then 5. In the 8 strikeout game, he gave up 4 runs, but only 2 of them were earned. That was over 6 innings, 26 hitters, 8 hits allowed to Tampa Bay. So kind of an up and down performance as far as DFS goes. Faced the Dodgers the last time out, 5 innings, just 3 hits, a home run, 2 earned runs, 5 strikeouts, 2 walks. Mediocre kind of a day. At these prices, that doesn't pay the bills for DFS. 98, 10-2 on this slate. There's a lot of downside. And the Diamondbacks are just really good. They're low strikeout. There's a couple points of small sample that are bringing us down there. Even with these 2 big marks down there, another big one in the middle, that's still just a 20.1% strikeout with 3 guys in there over 25% because those top 3 are so low. A lot of run creation, tons of on-base skills across this Diamondbacks team, even in this diminished form with no Corbin Carroll in the projected, with no Josh Naylor in the projected. Carroll on the IL. Naylor, I don't think has landed on the IL. Has he? Didn't play the last 2, I want to say. Did he actually go on the IL? Doesn't look like. So we'll see if we get him. If Naylor's in the lineup, it's an obvious bump to Diamondbacks quality, even lefty-lefty. He's good enough to get through. So Bubic, very, very playable. One of the more high-priority pitchers on the slate. One of the highest, second highest projected, I believe. But there's a lot of very visible downside. And at those prices, it doesn't make me comfy. I'd rather go around any kind of popularity that he might be drawing. Maybe even throw some Diamondbacks bats at him, especially from the top. You've got 2 guys above the magic number, the same 2 that were yesterday. I believe they both hit home runs yesterday, too. Ketel Marte, Eugenio Suarez. 27 homers for Suarez, 19 for Marte. Monster seasons for both guys. In between, Geraldo Perdomo, all his on-base skills. He's not the power bat that he looked like for a brief stretch of time over the first part of the season, but he's very believably low strikeout, high walk, extremely high on base, very, very good correlated scoring guy. They should just have him lead off and Ketel Marte hit second in this configuration of the lineup. Lourdes Gurriel at 36-28 still puts good wood on the ball. 251, 299, 422, a little underwhelming in the slash line, but a dozen home runs, a 171 ISO, some doubles. He is a very reasonable Cal Raleigh's 35th home run, second of the day. All right, fine. Cal Raleigh's the best fantasy bat at catcher. He given the pace of MLB's updates, he probably hit that as I was saying that about Will Smith before. Ridiculous. So yeah, Lourdes Gurriel, for his talent, especially if he's sitting third in between those guys, very, very playable right-handed bat from this team. Even if he's hitting down here and like you get Grichuk in the 3 spot, those are interchangeable pieces. Grichuk for 29-24 has tons of upside against any given lefty. He hits for power. Even this season, 10.8% barrels, 53.2% hard hits over some batted ball events in his 150 plate appearances. No real results for it, just 4 home runs, but a little sneaky 181 ISO. That gets you through the day at these prices. Blaze Alexander's cheap for a kid who can hit a little bit, at least in the minors. James McCann, 1 home run on the board in his 15 plate appearances. We looked yesterday. It's been a minute since McCann's really provided us with much quality, but you can always mix him in. He does have that long-time track record of hitting lefties pretty well. Tim Tawa, 169 mediocre plate appearances outside of the 6 homers, the 7 steals. The counting stats are good. Everything else has been bad. Alec Thomas, mediocre season, over 251 chances. Gives you a little bit of pop here and there, but not all that appealing in the bottom spot. On the Royals side, mid-4s implied total for them as well. I definitely think you could throw their bats at Erod. Between the two teams, the Diamondbacks are the better team. The Royals are in the better spot as far as the pitcher they're facing. Bobby Witt, 8.50 in the home run model. He's hit 11 on the season. He's also stolen 24 bags, getting on base at a strong clip, creating runs 24% better than average by WRC+. Leading into Michael Garcia, Sal Perez with his power upside, Garcia with just a very strong slash line all season, very good run creation numbers, handful of home runs, 18 steals. He's been excellent. Mark Canha, Jack Caglianone. There's no Vinny Pasquantino. Did Vinny get hurt? Or is he just not in this projected? No Vinny against the lefty in this projected. See whether we get him or not. He's not hurt. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vinny. I would definitely play him if he's in there. It's always a high priority bat in this lineup. Mark Canha at 2,200 across the board as a righty bat. Hasn't done much with 116 chances this season, but we've seen Mark Canha succeed in the past as far as being a low strikeout, fairly high walk guy, get on base, provide some correlated scoring with a little bit of pop in his bat for the oddball home run here and there. Caglianone at 25-24. He's a young kid against a lefty here. This could be a spot where Erod maybe exploits him a little bit. He's been at 23.3% strikeout, just 4.9% walks over his first 103, and slashing 144, 194, 237. Does have 2 home runs on the board, if nothing else. Nick Lofton, Freddie Fermin, Drew Waters. Freddie gives you a decent hit tool. 260, 321, 329 is just a cheap backup catcher. You don't want to skip Sal that often, but you can put Sal at first base and include Freddie as a cheap offset catcher. If you're looking a one-off catcher with just a random guy that nobody's going to be playing, 2,400 for a guy who can actually put bat on ball 3 times, come away with a few base hits. Not much else. He's not much of a home run bat or anything, but a few base hits for that price where you have to play the position. Somebody to at least keep in mind if he's in the lineup. And then Drew Waters is there. 4 corners for sure. Benefit of the doubt, Chris Bubic shares. Just barely. Bubic, Diamondbacks, Royals, Erod. That could easily go in basically any order you like it, though. Close things out here with one of the most appealing games of the day. This ballpark plays up power. You can see some power showing here for the Giants for sure. Mid-grade type power showing against just a more complete career for Justin Verlander. Model's got a long memory as far as some of those things go. You still do have a pretty good 9.29 on Kurtz. You've got an 8.80 with obviously more to give from Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langoliers, depending on who's in the lineup. I got to fix that Max Muncy. Especially now that the other one's hurt. Yeah, ignore that he's not projected. I'll get it fixed. He's mediocre. Playable. If you're stacking up a bunch of A's, Max Muncy's obviously playable. Verlander checks in at 8,000, 8,200. He's got an 18.7% strikeout, 4.26 ERA, a 4.76 xFIP. A few too many walks on the season, way too many barrels. That's where we get really, really challenged. That's one of the reasons we're getting the A's at a 5+ total in this ballpark. 89.7 miles an hour of exit velo, 39.6% hard hits. Probably a little lucky to be at a 3.06% home run, especially when we're putting guys on base. Those just don't go together all that well. Verlander's gotten by. He hasn't been unsuccessful this season, but it's not exactly peak form Verlander. A few darts at low ownership, sure. At these prices, it's perfectly fine. He projects out competitively with everybody else who will be in that middle group of ownership, but he's not that appealing. JP Sears are going the other way at 68.78, comes in with an 18% strikeout against a tidy 5.9% walk. It's about all you're getting out of JP this year, though. High home run rate, nearly 5%. Too much exit velo, too much hard hit. 21.3 degree average launch, 9.4% barrels, 5.09 ERA against a 4.86 xFIP. There's just no reason to really get carried away with any kind of shares of JP Sears. I'd much rather have Giants bats. A share here, a share there, sure. Across a full portfolio, fine. He's very cheap, but there's really not anything in the numbers to suggest that he's going to have any kind of good day here. Giants bats, Elliot Ramos off the top. Big piece for me today, 10.43 in the home run model. He's got 13 on the season, a 176 ISO. Puts great bat on ball. Love the option of throwing him against JP Sears for a little bit of home run juice. Not the home run pick of the day, though. 2 spots after that, Rafi Devers. Don't care about lefty-lefty in this situation. 49-36. I will take my shots with Devers. 17 homers on the season, a 216 ISO, a monster 15.7% barrel, a 56.4% hard hit. He is also not the home run pick of the day. The home run pick of the day comes in between those 2 bats. It's Willy Adames for a cheap price. $3,500, $2,900 at shortstop for Willie. I don't care if he's hitting in that spot or further down the lineup. He's too good to be that cheap. 218, 305, 358. I feel like we're subtly climbing in the slash line. 10 home runs, 140 ISO, 89 WRC plus, 11.3% barrels, 44.2% hard hits. I'm intrigued enough that I'm going to actually pull up the recent game log. What's he done in like the last 2-3 weeks? Because I feel like that slash line has definitely come up recently. There you go. Since June 15th, Willy Adames, 293, 391, 431, 136 WRC plus, just 2 home runs, just 2 doubles in that stretch, just a 138 ISO, but a 23.2% strikeout against 14.5% walks. He scored a dozen runs. He drove in 6. He's found his form. He's been a lot more productive with that bat. Now he just needs the power to come through, and he's been squaring the ball up. It's really been since about the 15th. If you go back to the start of June, it comes way down. Still a 112 WRC plus, still a 336 on base. The average a lot lower. Does have 5 home runs, though, in that stretch. You pick up 3 more home runs. He had a home run on the 10th, the 11th, and the 13th. So if we cheat and just start on the 10th. So since June 10th now, wish I had noticed that before, would have been more impactful. Since June 10th, 299, 385, 32, a 234 ISO, 5 home runs, 18 runs scored, dozen ribbies, 153 WRC plus. That's a legitimate tear over the last 24 days out of Willy Adames. Home run pick of the day. Hopefully other people haven't really noticed. Wilmer Flores at 36-28 has 11 home runs. You can always work Wilmer in the lineups for a cheap price. For a cheap price against any lefty. Luis Matos. I almost made Luis Matos the home run pick of the day. I just wasn't entirely sure that he'd be in the lineup. 25 on DraftKings, 22 on FanDuel. He's got 4 home runs in 81 plate appearances, a 7.6% barrel, 37.9% hard hit, carrying a 9.14 in the home run model today. Last year, he hit 5 in 156 chances. The year before, just 2 in 253 chances. There's not really all that much to cling to here. I'm just kind of riding with what that number's telling me. I like the upside there. If I can work him into lineups at a very cheap price on either site, if he's hitting in the heart of the lineup, fire away. That's a really interesting option. Jung-Hoo Lee at 42-31, mix and match quality hitter, 247, 314, 405, a 102 WRC plus. More to give, I think, than that. 332 XWOB, but kind of backs that up. Patty Bailey, Tyler Fitz, and Sergio Alcantara at the bottom of the lineup. Sergio's on FanDuel at 2,000 third base, not on the DraftKings slate. Bailey and Fitz are mix and match type pieces. Looks like Sergio got a little bit of action in the show in 2020, 21, and 22. 255 plate appearances in 21 with the Cubbies, and then some in 2022. Across 2 teams, 224 plate appearances / 220, 261, 356 with a 70 WRC plus. Did hit 6 home runs in that tiny sample. It's about the only thing you can really talk about. At best, a mix and match guy. Maybe an odd duck to throw into the mix just because he's dead mid price, but you don't really want to skip Rafi Devers that many times for him. On the A's side, super interesting team. You're going up against Justin Verlander. You take the downside with the good 40 minutes till start time. I really got to hurry through this. All right, A's. Lawrence Butler, very playable, 45-31, 11 homers, 14 steals. Table setter for this lineup, if nothing else, and a lot of individual quality on top of that. 9.1% barrels and 44.6% hard hits is very, very interesting. Jacob Wilson, assuming he's in the lineup, 339, 384, 73, 138 WRC plus for 5,000 for 2,900 as a table setter ahead of all the power bats that I want to get to. That's an important piece in this lineup. He definitely scores points via the other guys hitting home runs. Brent Rooker at 48.35, a little bit cheap on the DraftKings slate for his talents, fully priced on FanDuel. Monster power upside, 18 home runs on the year. Made more improvements year over year from last year to this year after I thought he was done making improvements. Just keeps getting better and better. A little bit lighter home run output this year, but still a 218 ISO, 131 WRC plus. He's a beast. 43.32 for Kurtz is not expensive enough. He's up to a dozen home runs. He has effectively caught Shea Langoliers. He's 2 home runs short of Tyler Soderstrom. He's ahead of Lawrence Butler. It's ridiculous pace already. 247 ISO, very, very real power. Langoliers, always been a good power hitter. Not much of anything else. Slashing 242, 303, 460. Getting on base at a decent clip this year. Striking out a little bit less. Walking a little bit more. If he keeps that up, that's interesting going forward, especially when his price is still as low as it is at 38 on DraftKings. Soderstrom at 44.28. Very interesting piece. Down to 252, 334, 426. A little normalization going on. Down to a 174 ISO, but still putting very good wood on the ball. Has a 14 home run total. Has a 111 WRC plus. To throw into the mix here when he's going to be lower owned than Kurtz, than some of the other bats here, makes him more interesting. And he's got the first base outfield eligibility that you need to put him together with Kurtz. Muncy, Schumann, and Denzel Clark all just kind of wearing A's uniforms down toward the bottom of the lineup. Let me get at it. Oh, A's dropped. It's not on Labs yet. Is it dramatically different? I can't imagine it's all that different. Do what you will with the A's. This ranks out as Giants bats, A's bats, Justin Verlander, and no JP Sears. Verlander loosely on the board at those prices. He's fine. It wouldn't shock me at all if Verlander beat the A's. Had an okay start for the money today. With that in mind, you guys, I am going to wish everybody a happy 4th. I'm going to pull the board back up and talk about the fact that he is on an island both for ceiling, projection, and ownership all by himself. Could go sideways in an awful hurry, but he is unique, and he's unique in his ability to offset a few runs against with just a monster strikeout day. Of course, other guys could find good strikeout totals, but everybody from Bubic down is in similar kind of territory, both from projection perspective, matchup perspective, pricing. Everybody in this group is owned in the 10 to 20% range on DraftKings. Everybody in that group is owned in the 10% or lower range on FanDuel. He is in half of all lineups. Home run pick of the day, Willy Adames, San Francisco Giants. With that in mind, you guys, have a great 4th. Be safe out there. If you're shooting off fireworks, if you're protesting, if you're anti-protesting, whatever you're doing out there with your 4th. Hopefully you're just enjoying the beach or something with your family and not doing any of that shit. But enjoy it. Be safe. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Share those results when you do on Twitter at rotoscouts, in Discord, which is linked for free down in the description. Jump on that promo. It ends at the stroke of midnight, I believe, if all things go to plan. That's what it's scheduled for anyway. Promo code SARCASTIC with a K in the middle still gets you half off of a week or a month at Rotoscouts this week. So check that out. Thank you guys so much. Have great weekends. We'll be back on Monday for more. I will see you because I need to stop talking and update lineups. Later, gang.